Hirsch was situated on the northern side of the Dakaran Empire. The south side was threatened by the Black Wolf descendants of the Icarus Kingdom. The west was captured by the monsters and beasts of the Black Forest. The eastern side was the only region where the kingdom's people could live. The land of Hirsch followed the rules and regulations of Count Versace. The House of Versace is a powerful organization that trains swordsmen to protect the Dakaran Empire. However, it is only a matter of time before they perish. It was because of the women at the House of Versace poisoning the crown princess. Her name was Olivia de Versace. She was huge in figure and tall, and because of her appearance, criticism followed her all around. People used to call her a witch or something. She was sitting and doing her hair while smiling, looking at the mirror. She understood that she was not Olivia but Bayahan. She had to wake up from one of her favorite novels. Out of anger, she threw her hairbrush in rage because she was not able to be the male or female protagonist. She became angry due to becoming the villain again. She hated the appearance of the character as well. She hated how her face was fat and wasn't attractive in any way. She hated the extra fat on her face that looked like an extra chin to her. Her hair was totally white. She was using a double-sized bed for her comfort. Olivia was sad, so she slept on the bed due to sadness. In the previous novel, she was a detective with a slim and hot body. After years of training, she had a physique that every man used to like. She was frequently changing her novel from being 30 years old to the next day a 15-year-old girl. She was more worried about the end of this novel as in this story. Olivia will die of treason. She so hated that plot. Never wanting to end up like this, she never thought about this. Two maids at Lady Olivia's door knocked on it. They brought a meal for Olivia. They were shocked as Olivia had already eaten a lot on her bed. She knew that after 2 years she's gonna die, so she had no motivation for this story. She was enjoying herself a lot, eating, sleeping, and playing here and there. With tears in her eyes, she was having her meals. 3 months passed. She was on her bed and couldn't move because she had eaten too much. Breathing became hard for her as well. If she kept eating, she may die before the actual time. She started running and losing weight so she could eat more. Eating gave her more joy. She was breathing heavily that she felt like dying. She knew if she wanted to eat and enjoy, she had to lose weight. She was determined to keep running and was thinking that she should learn swordsmanship. But before she started learning swords, she needed to lose weight. A maid called for Daisy. Daisy was the head of all the maids. She had taken an oath to protect the house. She called her out to see how Olivia was running. Finally, she was able to lose some weight. She saw some changes in her eyes as well. She felt like her eyes definitely looked like the villain's eyes. She was ready to live her life like this. Olivia was the only villain in the entire novel. On her 16th birthday, her father and brother, who were away leading the subjugation army, finally returned. Count Gerald de Versace was totally shocked to see his daughter. She had changed a lot. Count Gerald found her the spitting image of her mother Cecilia. Her brother Kyle de Versace said she is her daughter, she will look like her. She was happy that her transformation had finally brought them joy and happiness. They sat for tea together. Her father told her that due to the development, she had to look after the Versace castle. She also had to take over the administration and management of the budget for Hirsch. She didn't understand and flinched. Her brother and father were both part of the army, and they had to take care of the problems at the border in the Black Forests. Her father gave her all the administration work, and she accepted it. She was unhappy with the decision she took. She was walking in the village of Hirsch. 2 people greeted her from behind. The soil was barren, and the weather was cold. They were not able to grow crops in that land. Potatoes were freezing before they could cultivate and harvest them. People there were ready for a colder climate. She understood that she had to do something before it was too late for the people. They were living very poor lives. Even after living like this, they were ready to pay taxes before the due date. She felt sorry for the man, but she was not in a position to feel sad for that man. After that day, she worked hard for a year. She made sure to make a report of rural areas of Hirsch, and the places where cold weather had affected much so she could tax-free them. Working hours without taking rest, a year passed away. She learned sword fighting as well. A maid warned her that royal delegations would be arriving shortly. His Grace was demanding to see Olivia in his study room immediately. The maid took her for a bath and made sure what she should wear for the royal delegation meeting. The maid showed her 2 dresses, and she chose the red one. The maid appreciated her efforts in taking part in royal meetings. Olivia felt like a baby being pampered whenever Daisy complimented her. Olivia got ready and came out. The story begins when Olivia turns 17. If the story follows through, then she demises as a candidate for the crown princess after meeting with the emperor and crown prince, and she would write an application for Somehow Academy. But she was neither going to be a candidate for the crown princess nor making an application. Because she wanted to live. She wanted to avoid the things that could make her die sooner. She came inside the room. She wanted to break through the original story. The royal delegations were there in Hirsch. She, with a smile, welcomed everyone. She wanted to know what they wanted. She was late. Her brother asked why she was late. She was fast, but somehow she got slow. She noticed some papers there on the table. It was the crown princess candidate and the academy papers. She asked if it's okay to have a look over those papers because the papers belonged to her. Her father grabbed her shoulder. By then, her brother said they cannot send Olivia to the palace. Olivia didn't understand what was going on. Maybe the palace was requesting her presence there. Her father was flattered with her abilities of guessing everything right. They were looking at her as if she was some genius. Her brother was 4 years older than her, and her father had a soft spot for his daughter. As she was reading those papers, her father told her she should apply for the crown princess in exchange for the highest grade of Oricon obtained from the monsters, as she would be a qualified candidate. She didn't want to join as it was a useless request, and she'd end up dying there. The crown prince was sickly and sneaky. Her brother and father wanted her to marry the crown prince. But Olivia already knew the story, and the crown prince already had plans with the female lead. Hammond came there. Olivia asked Hammond what he thought about her father and brother being overdramatic about all of that. Hammond was even more overdramatic as he said she was a classier lady compared to the crown prince. She looked outside the window and had a thought. She found that it was a good day outside. She didn't want to feel that second-hand embarrassment. She went through continuous changes in the past, but she did not feel so great about anything. At the dining table, everyone was eating, but Olivia was holding a paper. It was from the Imperial Palace. All those things would happen to Olivia just after the arrival of a letter. In the original story, this one letter creates the desire in the heart of Olivia for the crown prince. She knew what the letter was all about, but the letter was sugar-coated. She understood why Olivia had a wedding idea with the crown prince because of that sugar-coated letter. Even her father and brother didn't know anything about politics, focusing instead on sword fighting. Her father and brother were always thinking about fighting and how to defeat one person. They failed to teach Olivia about the politics and how to speak in front of someone. The victim was Olivia, even though she was the bad character here. She thought to do something about it. She went out of the dining room. She was determined to get everything good for Olivia. She was determined not to be a villain, at least. The three were discussing, and Olivia said the Imperial Palace should give them support this year. She was ready to offer Oricon to the Imperial Palace in exchange for money, and not to accept any tax increase demand. Her father was clueless, standing there. She said her father needs to reject the crown prince on her behalf, saying she's too young and always sick, even if they think her father is arrogant. Her brother was happy with her bold moves, but would they accept her sickness? But if they insist, maybe they'll accept, Olivia said. She also pointed out the portrait of her, which was of a fat-looking woman. She insisted on sending that portrait to the imperial family in any event. Her father told Hammond to let everyone in. Someone with glasses came inside. It was Chief Secretary Edwin. He was the one who taught her how to take over administrative work. One more came inside. He was Daisy's older brother and her brother's childhood friend. He was Daniel. She found that he kind of looked like a model. With his appearance alone, she had the clearance looks already. He was her teacher for sword fighting and her first love as well. Count Gerald had called him there. He smirked at her. She was flattered. He was the member of a family that was most loyal to Count Versace, but she was more into his looks and presence. Even though the story had so much bloodshed, Olivia would be able to dodge them, she thought. She wanted to marry Daniel. Her brother teased Daniel, saying he needed his permission to come in. She was so angry when her brother blocked her view of Daniel. Meanwhile, they told Count Versace that Sir Edward had submitted lower toll fees. Olivia ran to Daniel and grabbed his hand. Her brother had a sudden shock seeing this. He told her to take her hands off him. She had a chance to mess with her brother as well, holding hands with Daniel at the same time. Her brother got angry and told her to stop linking arms. She didn't like it when her brother yelled at her. She asked if Daniel had eaten or not. Even hearing his voice, Olivia had flowers in her heart. Yet, her brother didn't like it and was standing in anger. They sat down. Her father couldn't ignore the demands of the Imperial Palace. But according to Olivia, the Imperial family thinks this family is a doormat. They all wanted to know Olivia's plans for countermeasures. They were also ready to follow her instructions. She had no clear idea. Even if she wanted to, she couldn't get away from the business of governing the land. Also, her brother would inherit her father's title, and she was more concerned about it. As she reminded them, the imperial family praised them for the work they had done in the winter, such as eliminating the monsters and beasts and guarding the border, but they had not mentioned any promising compensation. If they kept doing it, they would inform them that the land under the protection of House Versace would be scaled down. But if they did, it would also affect other territories. Maybe a few people would start to rebel against them. Her brother was right. They could not ignore the areas where rebellion could begin. She came up with the idea that they had fought with them and also protected the border. They were not going to attack. They were just reminding them that the agreement only covered border defense. If they made the first move towards the changes, it might help the imperial palace follow them. Her father was not into opposing the imperial palace's orders. Meanwhile, Olivia's brother got enraged that if they didn't do anything, the imperial family would summon Olivia. Was he going to give up on his daughter that easily? Father was worried about his daughter as well. He was not going to give up on her. For a father, his daughter is everything, and thinking of losing her is like rat poison to him. But it was true that once Olivia arrived at the palace, other noble women mistreated her wrongly. She had to reassure herself that somehow she needed to manage and get out of that situation. She didn't say anything at that time. Versace Castle has a study hall as well for Lady Olivia. Oscar was already there. He asked Olivia why she was late for the study. He was drinking tea at the moment. She didn't say anything but went to her table. Sam asked her if she had plans to go out. Sam was her secretary. She asked for the report from Sam and told Oscar to take her to the guild. Oscar was not in the mood to take her to the guild. By that time, Daniel arrived. She was glad to see Daniel there. She wanted to survey the guild and check out the 2 newly built factories. Daniel agreed to escort her there and called her to meet him after lunch. He wanted to know if she was curious about the negotiation deal with the royal delegations. She had faith in her brother. She knew that he was able to do it without any issues because he took training for negotiation. Daniel checked his pocket and took out a candy for her. She taunted him, thinking that she was still a kid, but rather wanted flowers. She found it adorable. She made him embarrassed. She took it so he wouldn't feel bad about himself. He promised her that next time he'd be ready with flowers and candy together. She was flattered. In the La de Portia Guild, 2 years ago, there was a need for food and supplies that were provided by the guild, and so she merged and took over several minor guilds. At first, she thought she might not be able to handle it because of the financial crises. But now that they've taken over the distribution and circulation of Oricon monster byproducts, it paid well. The guild was always busy at all times. It was the biggest guild in the area on the east side. She ignored Oscar's words. Oscar is always busy, but he is always available to help. She didn't understand what he meant, but for him, Miss Daisy will definitely appreciate the words Olivia uses. She was angry and said she would buy 2 more guilds and make him work on the ground. Oscar got shut. Olivia asked for the report from Sam. They were ignoring Oscar as if he was not there. Lady Olivia and Sam were discussing the residential problem increasing due to road conditions and housing. She wanted to cover the border areas to build roads before the construction started and only after the water and sewage systems were done. She took the documents from Sam and started making a list of what should be done first, making all the calculations. She gave it back to him. She had done it all on her own. Sam was impressed with her talent. In a previous life, she was a police officer and had to do a lot of paperwork, so she was used to it. She was ready to start the work. She didn't want the lake water to get contaminated, so they hired an officer to maintain the water quality. She was worried about clean water mixing with sewage water, which could cause diseases. They had to find a way to clear things up. They came to the point where she understood that buying construction materials before starting might be more efficient. Sam and Oscar shared the approximate number of required materials. They came to the soap factory. All the fish had died and were floating in the water. It was a closed factory used as a lab and storage for animal oils. But the new factory was being built in some so people could have new jobs, at least. Daisy was the CEO of the company. It was Miss Evans' idea. She was in charge of laundry. She suggested using animal oils in soap making. As they both were talking, Olivia suggested adding a few more things to the soap. Miss Evans was able to understand and made a legendary soap. While they were in the carriage, she asked Oscar how the research was going. It was a problem. They couldn't directly and simply launch a new product. She didn't like Oscar's idea. Her meeting with Oscar was kind of fun at the start. She met him 2 years ago when she was 15 in Hirsch. When she first met him, Oscar was injured a lot on his hands and face. She thought maybe the guild's people were the ones who did this to him. He was hurt because he was not paid. He had a fight with the accounting ledger. He kept on adding that after meeting with the guild master, he fell down. She saved him. She knew if she saved him, there would be no difference in the original story. She didn't like the fight where one wins and gets money. She asked him if he wanted to join the army with her. That day, Oscar left with her to join the army. Oscar was appointed as the guild master when she took over the Maroon Guild. The project they were building was only for commoners. Oscar was standing behind her. But aristocrats were also sensitive to smells. She wanted to buy things how she used to rather than asking someone else. Sam notified her that Daniel and Daisy had arrived. As always, Olivia's love for Daniel was evident. Traveling through Cessna was not easy, so they chose to travel by horse. She gave her a shirt to change so they could proceed to leave. Cessna was the place for people where families of soldiers who died in the army lived. Those people had never gotten their proper compensation, and for their daily living, they relied on herbs and medicine. Daisy introduced Olivia to Harold. He was the factory in charge. Daniel noticed that people there were eating something. He asked why they were having it late. Harold told them it was free food for people who could not work in the factory. Daisy didn't understand why it was included in the report. She asked Harold what was going on. It was his idea. He was using the company's funds and didn't even include it in the report. She blamed him, saying that just to feed more mouths, he had lowered the quality of the food. He apologized to Daisy. Daisy wasn't angry at him but wanted him to increase the budget for extra meals and good food for people. He was happy that people would be happy to get healthier food. Olivia was touched by Daisy's kindness. They moved to the next stage. She found a spot for a clinic, but no doctor would come there to treat people with no money. Olivia said they were the families of people who died protecting the land. They should get free medical care. Oscar found her idea not genuine. She had an idea to appoint a doctor on a salary basis. Only the presence of a doctor could be more helpful to the townspeople. There were people with wounds and people with diseases. Olivia came home. She was tired as hell. She slept there for a moment. She wanted Daniel to be there with her to cheer her up. Back in time, she was angry with Daniel. He suddenly stopped teaching her sword fighting. He refused her. She wanted to know the reason. He was insecure about the rumors. Also, the border wanted more support. She was crying there. She thought maybe her clinginess and talking to him every day made him annoyed with her. He was concerned about her marriage. She was about to turn 17, and she had to choose one. He didn't want to stick around her. She wanted to marry Daniel, no one else. She thought maybe he hated her. He wiped off her tears, saying he did not hate her. He agreed to be her guardian. He promised to be her guardian. She didn't want him to go away. She wanted him to be by her side always. She woke up. She saw Daniel there, standing. She wondered where he was. He was busy with Kyle playing a match in the gym. He even won the match against Kyle. She slept on his lap. She was 17 but soon she would be turning 18. She wondered how much longer she had to wait. Even he didn't have the answers to her questions. One morning, Olivia got sick, which gave her a lot of time to rest. She was feeling refreshed after being ill. One day, Giorgio de W. Esther showed up. He greeted Olivia, knowing that she was sick and that was the reason why she was skipping training classes that day. Giorgio was the second main lead character in the novel. He had blonde hair. He was a long-term cousin and friend of the main lead character. In the story, he gave up on his love just so the main lead could be with the female lead. But it wasn't from his side, rather, the female lead left him. He played the kind-hearted role by leaving her. He was also the reason why Olivia died. He would trap Olivia in the house of Versace, driving them to a corner. He was the one who killed Olivia. He saw that one guy behind her was holding her sword, so he asked if she was also into sword fighting. She was pissed that even though he could see a sword, he still asked a stupid question. She nodded. She was angry at him. He understood that in some way he had made her angry. If he knew, then why was he asking her? He bowed to her and apologized for his mistake. He said that he was only concerned about her ladyship's work and her well-being. She got even more pissed by this act of his. She asked him to step away as he was standing in her way. She was tired of her training session. Even though she was a noblewoman, normal society rules also applied to her. She was pulled down by many noblewomen. Many tried to manipulate her as well. She took off her gloves and threw them on the floor. The face she was making there was definitely going to make her into a villain no matter what. She froze when she realized it. He took her gloves and tried to give them back to her. But rather, Olivia took out her sword. She did that on purpose. He asked her if they were going to have a battle there. She was ready for battle. He asked if they were dropping the formalities. She didn't find any formalities in that wide area. He just laughed and apologized for blocking the wide corridor. The kid behind him was so scared. He allowed Olivia to pass through in a gentle way. She had a doubt if he was a villain as well. She went out of there in a rage. He was ready to have a battle next time and didn't say anything more. A few days passed. Someone knocked on the door. She wanted to talk about the royal delegations and suddenly noticed the blonde hair. It was him again. He was there as a representative of the crown prince. She, with sweat on her face, welcomed him. She had already met him, but she couldn't just yell at him in front of her father. As her father and Giorgio were talking about Olivia, Giorgio asked her father to include her as well in the discussion. Her father allowed her to sit down. She gently reminded them that the family of Versace was very clear about the crown prince's correspondence. They had gotten their reply, Giorgio said, and they were also ready to approve most of the requests, but still needed discussion. As he noticed that her ladyship's health was totally recovered, he wanted her to apply for the crown princess. He wasn't actually requesting but making her the weakest point of the house of Versace so he could execute his plans. She faked her health issues again. He mentioned their earlier encounter. She was still faking her health issues while he knew she was all good to go. He kept making her angry over and over, saying she looked fine to Giorgio. Giorgio didn't understand why she wanted to leave the opportunity to be crown princess when there were a number of people who applied for it. She stated that she only liked handsome men. Giorgio was stunned while her father knew she had a certain type in men. He said that the crown prince was very handsome and she did not need to worry about it. She still said because he was not her type. Giorgio thought she would fall for him at the first sight. Giorgio kept admiring his looks and his skills in sword fighting while she was pissed that if he liked him that much, why didn't he marry him? Still, she kept on with her words as she meant earlier that he was not her type. He thought maybe she would regret it later. She said if she became crown princess, then the person who would regret it would be Giorgio. Her father had enough of them arguing. He reminded him that the house of Versace was very faithful to the imperial palace, and he should be proceeding further. Giorgio again forced her father, reminding him that her age was perfect for marriage and she seemed to be very healthy. She again faked her cough so he could understand that she was not well. She did not want to cause any trouble for him if she rejected the crown prince as he was not her type. He admired her blackmailing techniques. She had enough of talking there, so she left the conversation. Giorgio stopped her and asked her if he could meet her before leaving. She totally refused his offer to meet him. She said she would be sick at that time. It was a month since Giorgio left the palace. Olivia was sitting under a tree, enjoying the day. Daisy reminded her that she had just finished her meal and should not lie down right after eating. Olivia was tired, but Daisy handed her a letter with her name on it. She wondered who it was from. It was from Giorgio, expressing concern about her health because spring was at its peak and she might catch a cold. He mentioned that he was waiting for her reply. Daisy asked if this was the same man they encountered months ago. Daisy found him a gentleman because he wrote a letter to Olivia. While Olivia knew his plans, she imagined that he was actually teasing her and knew she would use spring as an excuse to be sick. Daisy thought maybe Giorgio liked her. She hated him the most. No way that prick would like her. That Giorgio in the story would plot against everyone, including the female lead as well. Olivia took her pen, and Daisy wondered if she was writing a reply to him. She was trying to hold back her anger while writing her reply to him. She thanked him and mentioned that she was as sick as ever, also noting that she didn't like writing. She mentioned that he might be feeling lonely without the crown prince's companionship, so she asked him to reply from time to time. With that, she had enough. But rumors spread. Maids were spreading rumors that she was in a relationship with Giorgio. The same rumors were also mentioned in the novel. When Giorgio saw her for the first time, he fell in love with her. He wanted to see her every day, but due to her family, he killed his greedy wish. He did try to convince Viscount but failed and was sent back to Demire. Even though he went far, he kept sending her letters day by day. He was so in love with Olivia that he used to read her past letters. He was about to get sword fighting training again as a lady knight told him that a weak man has no reputation. He wanted her to reply. Giorgio was concerned about her health. So many letters came from Giorgio to her. She thought maybe she should squash him. Sir Kyle saw those letters and wondered how he would impress Olivia through these letters. Daisy told him this is the exact reason why he is single yet. Kyle thought that Daisy was single too, but her dating life was going great. They were shocked. Kyle had no idea that Daisy was actually dating someone. Even Olivia didn't know that Daisy was in a relationship. She kicked her brother out and thought to figure it out on her own. She felt disappointed because she used to share everything with Daisy, but Daisy kept her secret from her. Daisy wanted to know what she had said to Giorgio. She wanted to know more about the letters. She reminded her that Sir Giorgio and she were not in such a relationship. Daisy knew that Giorgio loved her a lot. Even if he did love her, it didn't mean that she loved him as well. She had no feelings for him. It was one-sided only to her. Daisy couldn't believe that she was not feeling anything even after knowing that he loved her a lot. She found it annoying rather than feeling anything. But she confessed about Daniel. Daisy was shocked. How could someone love a person as cold and stiff as him? Daisy wanted her to find someone better. She knew that Daniel's sister would react like this, so she expressed her feelings as examples towards him. She asked Daisy about her relationship and her mutual feelings with Daisy's partner. Daisy went silent. Daisy revealed that it was one-sided. Olivia understood it as well. At the Sumhel Academy, Renato was studying. He's the crown prince and Giorgio's cousin as well. Giorgio was laughing loudly. Renato noticed Giorgio was so loud and asked him to be quiet at least. He wanted to read something. While Giorgio was holding the glove Olivia had thrown on the ground at their first meeting, Renato didn't understand why he was holding women's gloves. Giorgio told him that was hard evidence that her ladyship maybe liked his type of guy. Renato noticed that ever since he came back from Hirsch, he was acting a bit weird. He was about to call for a doctor for him. Giorgio knocked off the conversation, saying Renato wouldn't understand as he was not her type. Renato threw a book at Giorgio and told him to get out of there. In the garden, Olivia and Daniel were walking together. Olivia may have explained the situation and rumors spreading around. She asked him how he would feel about being confessed to by someone. For him, it depended on the person who confessed the feelings. She asked if it was the person for whom he had no feelings. He stopped there. He was clear with his answer, being uncomfortable. She thought about what could have happened to him in the past. According to him, it's an act of expressing feelings without considering the other person. She again insisted on asking if the person couldn't hold back. She may have not asked for it. He said if he had no feelings, he wouldn't even give a person a chance to express it. That's what he would do. She understood why Daniel never gave her a chance to express it. He always treated her formally and gave her more respect than others as his way of rejection. She was sad about that. But yet again, she tried to express her feelings. She confessed that when she was younger, she did try to confess her feelings to him. But it must have troubled him. But that's a different part now. He kept walking. He was treating her like she was some other species. He's a tough guy to get. She got another rejection from him. In the castle, everyone was working here and there while Kyle asked Daniel about Daisy being in a relationship. He didn't know, but she was popular among guys as always. Kyle was shocked to hear this. Daniel wasn't concerned about Kyle and Daisy, but rather, ever since he and Lady Olivia came back from Lake Bar, she was not the same as she was before. She was trying to avoid Daniel. He felt like maybe she didn't want to hear his confession. Or maybe she liked Lord Giorgio more, he thought. At Daniel's house, Daisy was putting some flowers out when she saw Daniel there early that day. She told him to come back in more comfortable clothes as dinner was being prepared. At the dinner table, Daniel wanted to ask something to Daisy. With hesitation, he asked if Lord Giorgio was still writing letters to Lady Olivia. She said he was still writing because he's sweet. Daniel went numb. With anger in his eyes, Daniel said he might be a player and more like a weakling. Definitely. He's not Olivia's type. For Daisy, he was not a player as he was continuously writing letters to Olivia for 5 months. She admired his thoughts and his handwriting. According to Daniel, a letter is just a letter, it's not that hard to write. He paused when Daisy said Olivia was replying to him as she received his letters. According to Daisy, it felt like Olivia was more interested in him. Daniel didn't feel good about her replying to his letters. Maybe she was embarrassed, which is why she didn't show them to Daisy. Also, she was at the age to fall in love with someone. In the castle, the maids were having chit-chats while Olivia was in the bushes, watching them talking to other maids and neglecting her. At first, she wanted Daisy to confess her feelings, but after talking with Daniel, she needed to find another way. She wanted to find the guy Daisy was in love with. While walking through the hallway, she didn't understand why Daisy didn't go and confess to him. She wanted to find the guy faster. She was exhausted. She was trying to recall the story but failed again and again. In the novel story, people who had reborn could protect themselves from threats in the future. They could prevent it before it even happens. All she knew was that Olivia was unapproachable and had a dense personality. She was too perfect for the villain character. In the future, Olivia would surely harass the female lead due to being manipulated by the mastermind. The mastermind plays with her mind. In the future, when the mastermind shares some information with Olivia, Olivia kidnaps the female lead and causes big issues. The male lead comes to save the female lead. They end up together just because of Olivia, as she was the reason he came to save her. She compared Olivia to a speck of dust. She had no more story, so her surrounding characters weren't actually directed as well. Daisy was there with Olivia. She asked what Olivia was thinking. She didn't want to tell her that her life doesn't matter much and that Daisy does not know anything about her as well. but she doesn't have to do anything. Even without her, the story will keep moving and people would come to take a villain role after her as well. Daisy was doing embroidery. Olivia appreciated her skills in embroidery. She felt shy and called it a learning phase. But when Daisy looked at Olivia's embroidery, she found it cute that she made a bunny. But Olivia reminded her that it was a rose, not a bunny. Just to tease her, Daisy said Olivia loved embroidery, but it wasn't love after all, at least from her side. It was a tradition that gifting a handkerchief is both a way of expressing feelings of love and a token for returning home from the battlefield. Her embroidery was not good, so she thought to give it to Kyle or her father. Olivia asked Daisy if she was also doing embroidery to give it to her significant person. She said no, feeling that her embroidery was not good enough, so she wouldn't gift him. Olivia didn't understand why she doesn't give it. Her workmanship was famous all over the north. For Daisy, her embroidery would make her father and brother happy even if it's not good. But if her man can't even recognize sincerity, then he's the dumbest. She guessed that he was a knight. That's why Daisy was making a shield. Daisy was surprised how she guessed it right. Daisy made a symbol of the red knight, the falcon shield. But Daisy meant it to protect. She was giving it to her brother Daniel. Olivia found out that he was part of the Red Knight because Daisy wouldn't be blushing if she was actually giving that gift to her brother. But what if she's actually giving that gift to Daniel? Maybe Olivia should not gift anything to Daniel in this lifetime, she thought. She was crying inside because the beauty of Daisy's embroidery and hers were so different. It was a dark night and Olivia was still practicing with her sword. She struck a blow to the dummy while her father and Kyle watched her from afar. Her father showed a feeling of concern for everything happening in her life recently. She would be going to Manhwa Academy after the conquest ended. Kyle said it would be good if she learned something before going there. She kept swinging her sword, cutting all the dummies. Kyle started clapping for her efforts, saying that's his sister and her skills are impressive. Kyle took his sword and pointed it towards Olivia, saying she needed to push herself harder because he was not going to be easy on her. She found that he was acting a bit different at the moment. Kyle ran towards Olivia with his sword, but Olivia managed to stop the attack. Their father grew more anxious about Kyle and her. They were fighting each other and Kyle was suddenly so fast. She understood that while teaching, he was easy with her, but now things were different. As they faced each other, she struck a blow which Kyle couldn't see, leaving an opening for Olivia. She attacked him and threw his sword away into the air. Suddenly, Olivia's sword got energized. She didn't understand what was happening with her sword. All three of them walked down and stood in front of a big door. It was like a big storeroom under the castle. Father opened the door. It was a big room with large space. She never knew they had such a place in the basement. He gave her a ring. That ring was a weapon passed down the family for years. She could wear it on any finger. It was a perfect fit for her. She kept looking at it. Kyle told her that the weapon was only given to those chosen by Aura. The ring had chosen her. She didn't know how that ring was a weapon. She thought with the ring she could fight anyone. Kyle told her that she needed to infuse the aura with the ring and think about a weapon, and it would create it. She was confident about surviving as her chances were now more than before. Her father called her and told her to infuse the aura with a falcon image engraved there. She asked if it was the thing usually hung around the house, but her father reminded her that, unlike other families, the house of Versace had secrets passed down to the children with aura. That was the reason why nobody had ever had any disputes about it. Or she could say it was all about being competent with the ring. She touched the book and chain engraved from inside. It was a simple task. The book opened, and it was written that the one who had gotten aura might remember their story. After the 20 years of conquest ended, Camahil I proclaimed the title of king. He was the person who established Dekaran as an empire. It involved the east side leader Duke of Sabine, from the west Duke of Krashen, the independent Duke of the South, and the Countess of House Versace who later became the leader of the North. In the 12 years of war, Patricia Versace was the hero known as the Red Falcon. As the war kept going, the Red Falcon symbol became a sign of hope. Instead of looking to God, knights looked for the Red Falcon. But after the war ended, nobles objected to the title on Patricia due to her origin and gender. The imperial family limited the Versace's military power control. She set qualifications criteria to graduate from Manhwa Academy and get the nobility title. With that, the successor of House Versace became part of the capital. The successors who went to the capital assimilated with the culture of nobles and became shy of their homeland. They were leaving west and east to get married. Those who couldn't were eliminated. The only ones left in the north were Red Falcon members. After 2 years, Patricia got the title in the state. But they would only grant it if she married a man of equal or higher status. So under the condition, she had no other option but to marry Camahil I. Olivia was holding the book. She found it complete garbage and said so in anger. She hated the emperor. She risked her life to win the battle, and it was not fair that she was not a queen, but rather a royal concubine of all things. She slammed her hand on the bench out of anger. She was furious and called the emperor crazy. Her rage towards the emperor was increasing. Kyle had no expectations from the people in the imperial family of the Deccaran Empire, but his mother wasn't like that. His mother belonged to the Argona kingdom, so they can't even compare. She was beautiful. It wasn't his mother but his grandma who belonged to the Argona family, and her mother took the last name of Deccarans. Her father told him that Deccarans are the imperial family. Kyle was confused as well, while Olivia found her as stupid as always. But her father asked her to keep reading it. The more she read, the angrier she got. It was all frustrating to read. Kyle told her that Lady Patricia wouldn't give up easily, she should keep reading it. She found it quite accurate since Patricia wasn't the kind of lady who would give up easily. Patricia went to see Camahel to produce 3 promises. She placed her promises as the title of the Count of the Frontier, the right to the Imperial Guardian Sword, and last was the Blood Oath. These 3 were the promises she produced for him. Her title of the Count of the Frontier would make her as equal as the Supreme Commander of the border during emergencies. In return, she promised to protect the border and imperial family with military power. The right to the Imperial Guardian Sword was a pledge of military obligation to the crown. If any treason or emergency occurred in the state, the Versace family would march into the capital to protect the emperor. Lastly, the Blood Oath ensured that the imperial family would not interfere with the Versace family's affairs and marriage. She kept reading. She asked if it was a good thing that she obligated those rights because the role of the Count of the Frontier is to protect the imperial family. She asked if that was the obligation. Her father replied that it was, but why did she ask? Once the House of Versace was appointed as the military commander in charge, no one other than the House of Versace could interfere with military affairs. Patricia was given military authorities that no one could touch. Olivia didn't understand why she made things complicated. She wondered if it was really a good thing to be appointed to protect the emperor. It was helpful. It helped them lead their military into the imperial palace. It showed that the emperor placed his whole trust in the Versace family. Now Olivia understood why she made everything complicated, as she was smart. She knew that once they gained their trust, the emperor's successor would have no choice but to protect and follow suit with the House of Versace. Her father pointed to the paper and said they had to keep this in mind. While they were obligated to protect the imperial family, no matter what happened, they should not trust the imperial family. Reynardo was still reading in his academy when he heard footsteps. Giorgio came in, breathing heavily. Reynardo got annoyed by his presence again. He asked what happened. Maybe Olivia had finally replied to his letters. Giorgio came and collapsed. Giorgio reminded him that the last letter he received from her mentioned that she was cold and sick, and since then, she hadn't sent any letters to him. Giorgio was overreacting to her old letters. He was asking if he could do something since she stopped replying, thinking she must be very ill. Reynardo was getting more pissed by his weird behavior. Reynardo had enough and told him to calm down. Previously, he sent a letter and got a reply that she was sick. It was just 1 sentence. Reynardo asked how many letters he had sent since then. It was 3 letters he had sent by then. Her reply to all those letters was that she was cold and sick as ever. Reynardo was surprised that Giorgio had memorized her letters. Reynardo said she was just replying to him in a formal way as the first letter was sent. But since she didn't send any more letters, it was clear she had no interest in Giorgio. Giorgio, with attitude, told Reynardo that he might be saying those words because he didn't know her. She didn't usually say thanks around, and she wouldn't write a letter out of formality if she didn't like someone. Reynardo had enough. He didn't understand what in that letter got him so touched. Reynardo told him to acknowledge that a letter is a common thing. How could she be so rude not to reply to a letter after all? It's not like she doesn't even have common sense. Giorgio thought it was all her charm that she did it on her own. Reynardo asked what made him fall for her so hard that he couldn't even take her words straight. Giorgio was so in love he couldn't take his eyes off her and admired her beauty. Reynardo threw a book at Giorgio and told him not to come into the palace. Here in the House of Versace, Kyle asked if she had found anything after reading that. Maybe in the end, they all lived. It was not what Kyle asked her about. Anywhere beyond the north is harmful for them. Well, she was right about living, but not too right as well. Kyle found it so frustrating to be playing with words and asked her directly if Grandma reminded her of anyone. Olivia didn't like that Kyle was calling her Grandma. They were talking about their founder, but she thought for a second and wondered who Patricia could be. She understood that it could be her. Kyle told her that when he read, he immediately thought of her. Blood does not lie. Patricia was Olivia according to their father and brother. At night, she was about to go to sleep, but Patricia's thoughts were running through her mind. Olivia found her cool and thought maybe in a different story Patricia was the main character. But it was all pre-planned for Olivia to be killed by Giorgio in the future. She was fascinated by the family secret of House Versace. Things were different when she read the novel first. She was scared seeing the details of the story. Before reading the novel, she only thought of that world as a movie set. But people were actually living beyond her expectations. In that world, everyone had their past stories involved as well. For the first time ever, she found that she wasn't just inside a book. The ring could even manifest anything she thought about. It was a perfect gift for the protagonist, but she got it anyway. She had no idea why this was not mentioned in the book earlier. When something like this happens, a godlike figure always comes and explains everything to her. But maybe she was having them in dreams and she forgot about it. Her motto was to live slow and die old rather than being killed earlier. She wanted to build a house on top of the green prairie after getting money from her brother. With a handsome man as always, she thought of Daniel. Meanwhile, her father and brother were worried about her. Before Olivia leaves for Somehow Academy, they wanted to share something with her. It was not a safe place for Olivia after all. Kyle was concerned about her. Olivia was standing at the window. She wanted to ask something to Oscar, but he said he was a bit busy at that time. She asked if she told him she liked him, what would be his reaction. Oscar went silent, straight with no words, looking at her. He thought he had done something to displease her with a sacred face. She understood he hated it so much, with an angered face on her. She asked how he would reject someone. Oscar understood what Lady Olivia was thinking at the moment. He thought maybe Sir Daniel wanted to avoid her, and that was the reason he was going to the frontier. He was as quick as she thought he would be. Oscar said to ask the man himself, as he and Daniel had different tastes, and didn't feel the same way either. He was right about everything, and Olivia agreed upon this. She knew that one day he would make a name for himself, which led her to her next point. She wanted to open Le Deportia head office in Demire. She kept saying that she wanted to open another factory in the east. She wanted to launch Le Debon stories there and wanted 2 more acquisitions from the Northeast District. Oscar was shocked, sweating all over his body. He asked her if she came up with all this just because she didn't like what he said. But she liked his answer and came up with a brilliant idea. He, in a kidding way, said he had no choice but to marry her, also adding he doesn't look for any personality in a girl. To tease him, she said maybe she should open a branch in the West as well. He understood more work would be given, so he said it was all a joke. Besides, Oscar thinks Sir Daniel also likes her a lot, so why was she so worried? She wondered if he liked her a lot, then why hadn't he contacted her in 3 months yet? The conversation she had with Daniel left a mark on her feelings. She made the mistake of spending more time in the training field to give him space, and then after he was relieved of his guard duty, he went to the Red Knight. He stayed there for 3 straight months while she was in the castle doing her practices. She didn't even give him a chance to confess to her, and all that time not even once did he try to reach her. They were meeting every day before for 2 years, but now there was distance between them. He asked her why she didn't reach out to him directly. Well, she was busy with a lot of work, she said. Oscar was shocked at what kind of work she was talking about. She couldn't do anything about it, as if he could understand what it means to be considerate of someone. Someone has to see for themselves. Oscar didn't understand what he should do. At the Versace Castle Knights training ground, that day was the day Knights would proceed to head out for battle and kill the monster. The Red Falcon was divided into 5 military battalions. 2 of them would head to the border, and the remaining would be battling the monsters in the forests. The campaign involved her father, Kyle, and Daniel. Everyone was out there to wish the Knights good luck. Daniel noticed that Olivia was looking at him. She got flinched too when he saw her back. He was looking great. She looked away, overreacting, praying to God not to get a heart attack. Her father raised his hand and said, "Via." She ran to her father and gave him the embroidered handkerchief she made. He hugged his daughter before leaving for battle. Kyle took the other handkerchief and started saying it was for him. She made a baby chick on the handkerchief for him, which looked like a total mess. She took it from him. He asked for it as she gave it to him. Daisy also gave a handkerchief to her brother as well. He looked at the handkerchief and thought he would receive one this time at least. Lady Olivia called for Daniel. He looked at her. She was standing there with hope in her eyes. He asked how she was doing. She was as always, she replied. It became an awkward moment there. She wished him good luck on his journey and a safe return. He looked again at the handkerchief. He took a bow and got on going. He was putting more distance again, as always cold-blooded. Drums started, flags raised, and knights were leaving for the battle. The gates were opened for them. Knights on horseback were walking out of the palace and started riding faster. Olivia and Daisy were watching them leave the palace. In the evening, at Renardo's study room, he was working. He was tired of doing all the work. The butler asked him if he wanted him to make tea for him. He asked for 2 teas, one for Gerard as well, as he was burned out. Someone informed Renardo that Giorgio had arrived. With a big smile on his face, he came inside. Renardo was shocked. Giorgio's smiling was good, but he had a bad feeling behind that smile. Giorgio took out something from his pocket, a letter. It was a letter he had gotten. He opened the letter. After so long time, finally Giorgio got the letter. With sweat on his face, Giorgio opened the letter and started reading it. It was from Olivia. She mentioned that she does not like writing letters because they are annoying to her. Giorgio was smiling even more now after reading it. He was happy that she didn't mention anything about not liking him but instead expressed her dislike for writing letters. Even her handwriting was not good in the letter. She didn't even include any frills. When Renardo saw the letter, he agreed that she didn't include much in it, with no sign of manners, conduct, or character. Renardo presented his thoughts about Giorgio meeting someone from his knowledge. Giorgio slammed his hand on the table and said Renardo must be tired. Giorgio wanted to know why Renardo said that to him. Renardo was just being concerned about him. According to Renardo, Giorgio hadn't really met many women after all. Giorgio just thought he didn't need Renardo's help as he was handsome, nice, and a true gentleman. Both Renardo and his butler were shocked hearing his thoughts. He wasn't really a gentleman at the moment when he was talking. How did he even forget that Renardo was his friend and cousin? Giorgio apologized. Meanwhile, Olivia was busy with work and assigning tasks to her people. She assigned Oscar to count the medicines knights would require while battling for injured knights, and Daisy was assigned to check up on socks, clothes, and shoes. But Daisy was already prepared for it before Olivia said anything. As they kept walking, she yelled for everyone to work hard for their money and time, like they always did, without sparing any expenses. Olivia ordered Hammond to give the artifact maker Annex 20 low-quality oricans from storage. They may get it. Hammond told them about infusing the magic that serves as a hearth. Oscar noticed she was more concerned about everything, and Hammond wrote down everything she said. Oscar asked why she wanted to infuse them with lower-class magic. He wanted to use those oricans to fund the state operations. Olivia explained that it was about to get chilly weather and they needed to warm their bodies. Oscar just stood there and didn't say much about it. Later, Oscar and Daisy were in a room alone. He asked if she was the one who taught Lady Olivia the art of charity. He was concerned about the oricans. Even if they were old quality, 20 of them would be worth 2 months' budget. Daisy offered him tea and explained that's the reason why Oscar likes her, the way she handles everything and knows how to spend money. But he never knew that he would be the reason to make money for her in the future. He was working like a dog. Out of curiosity, Oscar asked Daisy about her feelings about being confessed to by the person she likes or not. She hasn't yet, but Daisy was a player, keeping it out of everyone's eyes. Lady Olivia was after her to know who it was that Daisy liked. She sat beside Oscar and was glad that Lady Olivia was not able to find out. It was nearly impossible for Lady Olivia to even imagine. Oscar, on the other hand, had a thought that she might be too temperamental, but later she'll find it out. She knew that Lady Olivia would, but for that time it was an excuse. In the Black Forest, the army had arrived. For 2 whole weeks without getting any rest, they were trying to capture the monster. But this year was different. The subjugation army was different. Daniel was killing the monsters, all due to the Red Knight's role model. Daniel was the one leading the fight and defeating the monsters at the front line. At the frontline tent, Daniel and Kyle were having dinner. Kyle asked Daniel if he had enough rest or not. Daniel was taking enough rest. Kyle advised him not to overdo it. If he gets hurt, Olivia will be furious. He was sad because Lady Olivia was maintaining a distance between them. He thought maybe she sent her handkerchief to Lord Giorgio. Daniel noticed something at the table on Kyle's side. It was the same handkerchief Olivia made for Kyle. Daniel took the handkerchief and asked if Lady Olivia gave it to him. Kyle said yes, she gave it to him. Kyle bet him that if he guessed it right, he could keep it, as Lady Olivia's embroidery skills were terrible. Daniel looked at the handkerchief for a moment. He noticed that the chick's eyes on the handkerchief were exactly like Lady Olivia's eyes. Daniel said it was a falcon. Kyle gave him the handkerchief and tied it to his hands. He wanted Daniel not to stain the handkerchief with blood or it would get dull. He was happy to get a handkerchief Olivia made. He promised himself that he'd be the first one to own a handkerchief she made. Kyle told him not to give up on Olivia or else he wouldn't forgive him because he and his father had approved of him. As Daniel felt it was too selfish to wear 2 handkerchiefs, he gave Daisy's handkerchief to Kyle and tied it to his hand. He gave the handkerchief that Daisy made for Daniel. Kyle was happy to receive a handkerchief made by Daisy. He just didn't want to be indebted to Kyle. Meanwhile, a man came and asked for Daniel. Daniel asked what was wrong. He said a horseman came and gave a letter to be delivered to Daniel. The horseman advised him to read it alone. Daniel had no clue who could have sent that letter. Kyle was eavesdropping on him. Kyle took the letter from Daniel's hands. Daniel got angry and said he had to read it alone. Kyle was amazed he was actually going to do it. Kyle asked Daniel if the letter came from Olivia. Daniel suddenly took away the letter and started reading it. It was from Olivia. She had sent her concerns to him and advised him to be safe on the battlefield and wanted him not to fight in the vanguard. Kyle asked what happened. Daniel replied he wouldn't be fighting in the vanguard anymore. Foggy images of Olivia's childhood memories surfaced. Kyle was 4 when Olivia was born. They were happy together with a family of 4. Daniel, from the start, took her side. Daniel and Kyle grew up together like they were brothers. Together they learned about sword fighting. They also played with Daisy in their childhood. Nothing changed even when Olivia was born. When they were small, days were more peaceful. Everything changed when Kyle turned 10 and Olivia 6. That's when their mother passed away. After their mother died, many things changed. The Count lost his smile and started avoiding his daughter and son. Time passed, and Olivia turned 16. That's when the subjugation army arrived at the castle. Olivia greeted them. She was the spitting image of her mother. She woke up. She noticed that she was waking up early those days. Maybe it was all because of the cold. It was snowing that day. She still made plans to go for sword fighting. She remembered how her brother Kyle used to motivate her that even if it was raining, nobody could stop her. She should not skip training. She knew he would say such words. She knew it was not martial arts, and training in the cold is a bit risky. She put on her warm clothes. Her body was a temple for her. Hammond was standing there and noticed Olivia coming down, so he asked if she needed something. She was going to the music room. Hammond requested to accompany her to the music room. Hammond opened the door and she came inside. Hammond saw she was chilled, so he lit the fireplace for her. The music room was where the Countess held all her affairs. It was kept as it was for the past 11 years. That room was the first place where Olivia learned to dance, as was the case for Kyle and Daniel. She noticed a portrait. A necklace was there. The names were odd. Her mother didn't use the House Versace's last name, maybe because that portrait was made before their marriage. She wondered how a face like her mom's could have led to Olivia's face. But now, after having a close look at the portrait, she could see the resemblance. The windows were open there. She sat on the piano bench. It had been long since she had played that piano. Kyle always wanted to become a piano expert, and after following her brother, she also picked up an instrument. Music always gave them joy and happiness. But as Kyle grew more, he became closer to his dreams of becoming a pianist. But Olivia loved to move her body a lot, so she learned kendo and martial arts. Her brother attended art school and lived there. But when she became a second-year middle school student, her brother jumped off the school rooftop. The police in school concluded that her brother was not able to handle the pressure. For her, that was not possible. Her brother loved music a lot. She felt like her brother left her behind. Nobody ever heard her doubts, and they had to bury their doubts in their hearts. And after that, even touching a musical instrument was a sinful act in her house. Families may share the same sadness, she found. The main difference was that her brother's room was abandoned, while her mother's room was always kept warm. Music had more meanings for two families. It was different. Sometimes she felt unconfident whenever her father and Kyle came into the room to listen to the piano. Whenever she played the piano, her father and Kyle always thought about the Countess. She never understood what was the actual difference between Kyle and the Countess. If someone could believe her that he never committed suicide, maybe music would have a different meaning in her life. She used music to run away from the thoughts and to reach the peacefulness of the family she was with. Julian was invited to the palace, and he was happy about it. Happiness was dropping from his eyes. He saw so many clothes in the palace. He was the first designer to step foot in the castle since the Countess passed away. Someone knocked. It was Lady Olivia who had arrived. She came along with her assistant and Daisy. He saw Lady Olivia for the first time. He was pleased to meet Lady Olivia. Julian introduced himself and his responsibilities for her debut in the Samhal Academy. Julian seemed very energetic and enthusiastic. She invited him there because she liked his designs and wanted to have a conversation with him. He knew about the Countess's height and great stature, but Olivia was even taller than Julian. He didn't expect this. She was not into dresses like corsets, so she didn't want him to add one to her dress. He agreed not to include one. He started sketching with a pad and pencil. He made a few drawings of clothes and dresses and paid more attention to her curves. Julian was so busy with the sketching that Lady Olivia had to wait. She asked Daisy if they could look at the brochure. They were looking through the brochure as time passed away. Julian finally finished. It did take him time, but he was able to draw something that would definitely look good on her. He had inspiration when he saw her first. She requested to see the design. As he noticed that she had great posture, something simple and a loose flowing dress would be more suitable. The first one she saw was too simple. The next one was too dark. She didn't like that one either. He kept showing, but she didn't like any of them until she saw something. She found that the design wasn't bad, actually. She agreed to go with the dress and suggested a bright red color for the design. He was happy that she chose one dress finally. He suggested that if he opened it up a little more from the back, it would look much better. She didn't want that, but he said it would not be good to hide her beautiful back. It would be an insult to Nefertiti. She imagined herself in a backless dress but strictly said no to that idea. He requested her with teary eyes as a request from him. She didn't understand why he was trying to expose her back as if it belonged to him. She added some details to the sketch Julian made and said she would only allow that much back to show. Julian found Olivia's idea was remarkable and absolutely genius. She wanted to know when she would get the product, and he assured her that he would make it as quickly as possible. Julian then left in the evening. Daisy was doing Olivia's hair as Olivia was discussing the idea of opening a store for the LeBlanc boutique franchise. She asked what they should name the new store. Daisy had a busy schedule. She had to go to Demire and only had 5 months to open 5 La Devon stores in the East. She knew about Daisy's schedule, but Olivia had a second thought. Maybe Daisy could handle the etiquette, as Julian might not have that business idea. Daisy suggested that Julian would be fine on his own. Julian was the kind of person who could even sell clothes to monsters in the Black Forest. Olivia asked Daisy if she was having a hard time nowadays. Daisy said she was having a hard time there. Olivia thought it was a joke, as Daisy always did. Olivia asked Daisy if she could teach something to Julian about business etiquette. Daisy agreed to that, as she would be less busy than being a boss. Olivia was insecure about Oscar. What if he approved or disapproved? Daisy said he might not have any issue having another boss around. Olivia could have blind trust in Daisy that she could persuade Oscar, and once she did, La LeBlanc would rise. Before she died, she was making sure about everything. Daniel sent a letter to Olivia. He mentioned that it was heavily snowing, and as Olivia had advised him, he had stopped working at the Vanguard. He hoped the best for her. She was happy to receive a letter from Daniel. She sent the shoes to Daniel as the white snow reminded him of her. He was hoping to be there before the date. Daniel's comparison of Olivia with snow was weird for Olivia. He thought she was cold and uncomfortable. There was another letter that came the same day. She didn't get a chance to reply to the previous one, and she was wondering what it could be. She was nervous about the letter. As she opened the letter, she got to know that he had no delay in his duty, so he was coming the next week. She thought maybe she wrote too much in her letter. She didn't understand his words about the comparison with snow. It was beautiful. She was hitting the pillow out of rage. Also, she was going to Demire, so who would he be escorting? He also added her last name into the letter, which he hadn't done in the previous letter. She felt so bad about it. She wanted to die, but as before, she died and got into a much worse condition. Now she didn't want to be in a worse condition. She wasn't going to give up on him. She wanted him to fall for her. A week later, at the Knights camp before Olivia received the letter, Kyle asked what Daniel was doing. He was worried about the second letter he sent to Olivia. She might be in an uncomfortable condition, so he was rewriting it. Kyle took the letter and read about the boots, comparing Olivia to Snow, and how he was arriving earlier than expected. Kyle didn't find anything wrong with the letter. Daniel was sad because the previous letter he wrote to her was too direct. He thought he was too obvious about everything. Comparing a girl to Snow and admiring her beauty is something one would say to their lover, and he even told her about his return. Kyle didn't think much about it at first, but when Daniel explained it, he also mentioned that Snow has some negative points as well, like being too cold and making the ground mucky. Daniel was looking at the brighter side of Snow, white, cold, and fragile. It's like something you have already but still can't hold. And leaving his last name was also not a good idea. He should have just signed his name. It was too dark, and he was worried about it in the middle of the night. Sam was shocked that Daisy and Oscar were also going to Demire. He was crying, wondering why they weren't taking Sam with them. Oscar offered to let Sam go in his place, saying that Oscar would be a perfect head of the guild. Daisy said he can't be head of the guild. He is more suited for the boss. Oscar got angry, thinking she was trying to get Sam out of his work. But Daisy was also claiming him first. Oscar and Daisy started their argument, and Sam was stunned. Sam was disappointed in the two of them. He said Lady Olivia doesn't make false promises as they both were making. He yelled that he doesn't want to take away anyone's job. All he wanted was for the three of them to work together. He ran away from there, wishing them a safer trip. Oscar saw him running away in tears. Daisy blamed Oscar for Sam's crying. Oscar didn't understand how it was his fault, but Daisy said everything bad that happens is always because of him. A man in a black hood was standing in front of Renato. He gave all the information about Olivia to Renato. Renato learned that Giorgio was exchanging letters with Countess Versace. Not much information was available, but her swordsmanship was excellent, and she didn't have any social life either. She was responsible for all the business of the Hirsch and Versace family businesses. Renato asked how the North was. He was asking about Hirsch. Hirsch was a very clean and organized city. People were wealthy, and even in the slums, they had free clinics. The news he got from the hooded man was totally different from the rumors from 3 years back. He was shocked at how much had changed there. Renato asked Giorgio why he hadn't seen her. Giorgio explained that maybe she was not feeling well. They were sitting in a restaurant. She wasn't even accepting sick visits. Renato asked, maybe she was sicker than usual. Giorgio replied. Renato told him that the subjugation army was returning tomorrow, so he might see her then. Giorgio didn't understand how he knew about the army's return. It was just a rumor, he said. Renato didn't want him to know that he had dug up information. Giorgio wanted to attend the banquet. Renato didn't know that Giorgio liked her this much. Giorgio warned Renato that he could see her but not fall for her. As if Renato would do that. Renato did have an interest in her because of her changes in Hirsch and Versace. That doesn't mean he would fall for her. The next day, people were cheering. Renato was in the crowd. He was waiting for someone and felt ashamed that he had to wait at someone else's gate. The Red Falcon army arrived. People started chanting under the wings of the Red Falcon. A long blonde-haired lady on a horse was Lady Olivia. She was at the front, guiding the army. People standing in front of Renato started talking about Lady Olivia. They started praising her looks and called her the pride of the Red Knight Army. People were amazed that at such a young age, Lady Olivia had so much knowledge. He could not take his eyes off her. Even her personality captivated him. She knew what common courtesy was but was avoiding it. He felt sorry for Giorgio for treating him like a madman. He understood that the way Giorgio had described her was actually the same as she was. She took her sword into the air, and a few horses came in front of her, stopping at a distance. It was the army that had gone to the Black Forest. They had returned safely. Lady Olivia didn't understand why they came early. Was it because of her birthday or because they were about to be apart soon? Her father and brother got off their horses. During the time they were apart, she was thankful for Olivia. She was about to cry but held back her tears. After her brother died, she never cried. But now she cried and hugged her father in tears. Her father consoled her, saying not to cry as they had returned. Renato was watching everything, and he recognized her father and Kyle. He recognized them as the commander of the North and the Decran Guardian, and the living legend of Sumhal Academy, Kyle and Daniel. Renato was shocked that they were openly expressing their emotions in public. At the Sumhal Academy, Giorgio noticed Renato in a hood. He asked Renato if he saw Olivia. He did see her from a distance. He informed Giorgio that she was looking fine to him. Giorgio was happy to hear that. Renato asked him a question. He asked if she chose another man, what would he do? Giorgio didn't say anything for a moment, then closed the book and said that wouldn't happen because her taste in men definitely matches Giorgio. He said. On second thought, Renato forced him to consider it. Giorgio mumbled that he could get rid of him. But rather than kidding, he would ruin the person's life. He would make him so bad that he would no longer be her type. That night in the Versace castle, everyone was enjoying themselves. They were cheering and drinking together. Her father offered a toast to their safe return. He was happy while Kyle was busy eating. Kyle asked how they ate roasted pig. She said once it gets done, a servant will cut a portion and serve it to him. Olivia went inside the castle and wished everyone to enjoy themselves there. While she was going inside, Daniel met her on her way. For 2 months, she had been trying to approach him, but somehow she never got a chance to talk to him. She found him more handsome than ever before. Renato asked what Giorgio meant by ruin. Renato found Giorgio a prick, but Giorgio didn't want to beg someone for her. Renato got angry, but Giorgio was just kidding. Renato understood that he was not playing around. He was talking with full seriousness in his words. Giorgio was clever, and he wouldn't take a step back once he thought something belonged to him. Also, it was regarding a girl, so he'd be more aggressive. A guy like Giorgio would take time to come back to his senses, but if it were him, He would have married her to gain the power of the North. All of a sudden, the thought of marrying her made Renato flinch. Giorgio asked what happened. Renato thought he was losing his thoughts. The day of Olivia's 18th birthday, she got dressed for the occasion. Her maids were appreciating her beauty. She felt embarrassed. Daisy knocked on the door and asked Olivia to come out. She came out, and her father was standing there. He saw Olivia, and she was sparkling with beauty. He also praised her looks, saying she was lovely. After all, she was his daughter, Olivia said. As they were going down the stairs, her father reminded her that she was old enough to leave for the academy tomorrow. She assured him she would be back in no time, and he didn't have to worry about her since Daisy and Oscar were going there with her. While she'd be in the capital, she thought of acquiring more guilds and opening more Le Devon stores in various locations. Her father didn't want her to push things too much. She advised her father that taking half measures was not good, they should rather grow substantially. Based on her analysis, small businesses were wiped out, and average businesses were bought out by their competitors. She wanted to grow the guild so that people would come in fear, but still want to trade. Her father was shocked by Olivia's words. She mentioned that nobody would notice it until their difference in strength became undeniable. He had no words. He reminded her that Kyle and he were always with her. She was glad to have them. She couldn't have done it without them. She opened the door and went in. She was their daughter, after all. They came into the party. Someone announced their name, and her father raised his glass. He thanked everyone for attending her 18th birthday. He wished everyone to enjoy the party. Versace the Guardian, under the wings of the Red Falcon. They would protect them. He ended his speech with a hooray. People started talking, music was played, and food was served. Her father asked her to dance. Lady Olivia agreed with pleasure. While Kyle wanted to dance first with her that night, as she was leaving for the academy tomorrow, her father wanted to dance with her. But Kyle said it was always like this. Her father advised him that if he wanted to dance, he should get a daughter as well. Daniel came and wanted to discuss something with Kyle. He told Kyle that the crown prince was there. Daniel had told Hammond to deny any requests from nobles. Kyle thought the crown prince wouldn't show up there himself. He bit his thumb and thought he should have stayed back. Daniel checked the inn he stayed at and checked the temple in case, but he had left the previous evening. Kyle asked a favor from Daniel. He asked if he was willing to go to Demire with Olivia. This could be their last chance. Until now, on behalf of the Versace family, Daniel took care of Olivia as a representative of the family. But now, that girl was dancing in front of him. Olivia and Kyle were arguing even while dancing. She called him an idiot and told him to dance correctly. He told her not to step on him. Olivia had grown into a woman who received love and respect from everyone. Daniel's feelings had changed for her since the day she asked him to teach her about sword fighting. She ordered Daniel to teach her sword fighting. 3 years ago, when Olivia was 15, she reminded Daniel of the Countess while training. Her determination made him fall for Olivia. He always cheered her up during training to boost her confidence. He kept increasing the intensity of the training to teach her properly. Daniel made her run even when she wasn't able to run properly. With heavy breathing, he made her run even more to boost her stamina. Even during the running sessions, he made sure she was doing great and kept motivating her. She always found it a struggle during training. Even when she felt like her lungs were going to collapse, he ensured her that the body is like this and she could make it through. He enjoyed the Olivia that was mature enough, but the best moments were when they dueled. She always refused to duel with someone who would let her win. So, he never held back while fighting with her so she could learn faster. He never allowed any other man to duel with her. Even during training and duels, he kept on teaching Olivia how to behave with opponents and taught her that they wouldn't be easy on her just because she was a girl. She was always motivated for another duel. She never held back during training. From that day, Olivia was no longer a little girl to him. Olivia was Daniel's master. At the banquet hall, Olivia had to dance longer, and her feet were all red. She blamed her brother for it. Kyle didn't even like dancing. Daniel knocked on the door and asked if he could come in. He heard that her feet were sore and he was worried about it. She was fine but never wanted to dance with her brother again. He asked if she wanted to drink something he could bring for her. She didn't want anything and asked him to sit there. They were frozen as cold. She looked at Daniel. She was glad to sit next to Daniel in a room alone. She looked at his eyes, his lips. She felt so nice to see him. Daniel noticed, so he asked what happened. She changed the topic, saying the music was nice. She wanted to clear things up with Daniel before she went to some hell academy. She asked him if he was okay with her leaving for the academy the day after. It was such a random question. He didn't even know how to respond to that question. She held her dress and told him that they wouldn't see each other, and she didn't want him to take interest in any woman who pursued him. Olivia told him to wait there for her. She was sure about passing the exam easily and coming back home as early as possible. He said that would be difficult. She didn't understand why Daniel would be so blunt. That was bad. She wanted to change the topic as soon as possible, or maybe she should leave. She stood up and asked Daniel to dance with her. She was able to change the topic. She gave a wink to the musicians to start the song. They started the music. Daniel seemed to remember that music. That song was never played at a banquet for the nobles. It was a famous song in the north. It was the courtship dance. The meaning of the song was that if someone requests a dance and the other accepts, they also accept their feelings as well. It was a direct indication to people, announcing that they were a couple. She was sure he would dance, but Daniel denied the dance and rather asked her to dance with him on the next song. She went numb. She had been waiting for this for so long, but she didn't give up. She used her strategies. She really wanted to dance to that song. If he denied, then she would have to dance with someone else. As Daniel was her escort and guard, his duty was to protect her from other men. The fact that she used this trick to make him sad at least. But she wanted to dance to the song that mattered a lot. With her future husband, Daniel. He held her hand and asked her to dance with him. He knew that dance quite well. She asked just a moment ago. He rejected her for the dance. But he wanted to dance to that song for a while. He bent on his knees and asked Olivia to honor him by dancing with him to that song. She felt so good as she was honored by Daniel. She gave her hand to him, and they started dancing together to the song. They held each other's gaze as they danced. Her heart was beating faster than ever, seeing his different personality. She felt like they were true lovers meant for each other. She wanted to show everyone that Daniel belonged to her and that they should not mess around with him when she's gone. During the dance, he said something to Lady Olivia. Due to the sounds of claps, she couldn't hear it properly. She asked what he said to her, but he didn't repeat his words, rather letting it go. From a distance, her father and brother were watching her dance with Daniel. She was feeling shy. Kyle was angry that she was smiling, almost like a different person now. She was happier than ever before. Her father had never seen her smile like that. Her father thought that the courtship dance was a good idea and thanked Kyle for it. But Kyle thought it was his father's idea. Countess Halkin, the gossip hub of the Northlands, didn't know that Daniel was such a good dancer. Lady Wymanchild, a friend of Daniel's mother, was thinking that Ladyship's heart was beating faster while dancing with Daniel. She thought Daniel was a hard rock man with no feelings, but while dancing, she saw through Daniel's eyes that he did have feelings for Olivia. Everyone could fall for Lady Olivia's charm. Also, Daniel wasn't engaged yet, so maybe there were possibilities that he was into her. She started gossiping that Lady Olivia and Daniel's statuses didn't match as she was the daughter of a countess. The other lady told her to be quiet as they knew that Daniel's family held the rank of baron. There were only 10 swordmasters in the north, and 2 of them belonged to the Meridian family. The other swordsman was Ron, Daniel's father. The Meridians were serving the Versace family. If they weren't, the Meridians would have gotten a higher title, like Marquis or higher. Daniel seemed so perfect to those noble ladies that they were admiring him from a distance. Daniel and Olivia seemed like a very lovely couple. Daniel was trying to find Olivia after the dance, but she had gone somewhere. She was sitting, holding a glass and a cake. He asked Olivia if she drank all of that. She drank only 1 glass, not much according to her, but she was having hiccups. Kyle saw her and knew she was pretty drunk. She was very drunk, and at that moment, Kyle was reminded of the back memories of Olivia with Daisy. Daniel apologized to Olivia's father, saying she got pretty drunk and he couldn't stop her. Her father had no issues and asked them to escort her to her room before anyone saw her. Her brother tried, but she wasn't ready to go to bed. Kyle asked Daniel to drop her into their bedroom. Daniel insisted Olivia go to sleep, but she didn't want to leave as that was the last day they might see each other. Kyle told him to drag her to her bedroom. Kyle turned around and looked for Daisy. Daisy was outside looking at the fountains. He came out looking for Daisy. Kyle got to know that Daisy was also leaving for Demire. She was heading for Demire because there was an opening of a new La Debon store in the capital. Kyle asked her if he could come to Demire too. Daisy thought Kyle was worried about Lady Olivia. Kyle hesitated as he wasn't concerned only about Olivia. He was concerned about Daisy. If she went to Demire, he would miss Daisy a lot. She stood up and started asking why he would miss her and why he was worried about her. Kyle hesitated with all of the sudden questions from Daisy. He randomly started talking about the time when she was drunk 4 years ago. All of a sudden, he asked her about this. He just wanted to recall what she had stated at the time when she was drunk. Daisy wasn't the kind of girl who drinks and forgets things with a scream. He tossed the topic, saying he would go to Demire next year. He asked her not to forget to write letters to him when she'll be in Demire. She wanted to ask something. He kept her aside during arguments. She got angry, saying if she was kept aside again, she would kick him herself. She was frustrated again, and her hopes were too high too. She said if he kept things unclear, then she would misunderstand. 4 years back, in the Versace castle, there was a party for the army returning and a New Year's celebration. They asked Lady Riviera where she got those flowers. Her fiancé gave those flowers to her. They were already engaged, but he always showed his affection and love to her through flowers. The flowers were pretty. Daisy noticed that Kyle came there. He was talking with Janet, and everyone thought Janet was confessing to him. Kyle's face was red, and they looked like a good couple. Someone asked Daisy about the flower and confession she got when she was younger. It was not true but just child's play, Daisy said. She barely remembered it now. Daniel was talking to someone while Kyle came running and slammed the door open. He told Daniel that they had an emergency. It was about Daisy. Daisy was drunk and sleeping on the couch. Daniel asked Kyle why he didn't stop her from drinking alcohol since he knew she couldn't handle it. It wasn't Kyle who gave her alcohol. Daniel asked who made her drink too much. Daisy was in a deep sleep, snoring there. Kyle didn't know who gave her the alcohol. He was tired as well from dragging her there. Daniel asked him if he was about to confess to her. But how could Kyle confess to her in such a situation where she's barely even awake? With Daniel's and Kyle's arguments, she woke up and told them to keep quiet. They couldn't handle her as she was too drunk. She woke up with rage on her face. They were worried about Daisy. Daisy was angry and told him not to confess to her and not to send her flowers again. She was so drunk that she was having hiccups. Kyle and Daniel didn't understand what was going on. Kyle reminded her that they had promised to marry each other. Daisy started crying, calling Kyle a dummy and saying how much she hates him. He pampered her somehow and told her not to cry. He wiped her tears and told her he wouldn't make her cry. Daniel asked him what he meant by saying he wouldn't make her cry. Kyle got stuck there. Daisy grabbed Kyle's collar and kissed him in front of Daniel. Kyle and Daniel were both shocked. Daisy told Kyle that he belonged to her now. Once she turns 20, Daisy wanted to marry Kyle. Kyle was so shy and scared. His face was all red. She warned him that if he ever looked at any other girls, she would definitely beat him. With that, she fainted again. Daniel grabbed Kyle's collar and asked him why he didn't dodge that. Kyle was in shock and shy. He didn't understand if it was real or a myth. She had really asked him to marry her. Kyle didn't know what to do as he was so happy. Daisy was sleeping there. Daisy woke up the next day with no memories of the previous night. After the banquet, it was finally the day Lady Olivia was leaving for some Hell Academy. The temple opened a warp to make her travel to Demire. 3 of them, including Daisy and Oscar, were leaving for Demire. Daniel joined them as well. Daniel wondered if she remembered what happened last night. She had foggy memories of the previous night. She did remember the dance with Daniel. All of a sudden, she remembered the time she was drunk. She suddenly changed the topic, asking him why he was coming to Demire. As her escort and guard, he had to go with her. She was living in the hostel of the academy, so why would she need a guard? He didn't tell her that he was also coming to Demire with her. She was embarrassed about what happened last night in front of her. He knew that she didn't want him to be there in Demire. She was surprised but never wanted that. That's not what she meant. There are knights in the palace, and it would be a waste of resources if he came to Demire. It would be a total waste of a sword master to wait there for her as she would only be visiting on weekends. He has to work, and more importantly, the Red Falcon Army needs their commander. He asked Olivia if he considered her duty more important, then could he stay there? She was surprised that he was willing to stay with her. She noticed that he smiled coldly. She thought maybe the Red Falcon Army had kicked him out, and she could take care of it if they did. He wasn't kicked out but wanted to volunteer for her. The carriage started. At the Hirsch Temple, a servant of the Sun Temple introduced himself as Milo Olash. He bowed to her and greeted her. They were at the Sun Temple of Versace. That was the scene she had read in the novel. There were a lot of details about how the Crown Prince overcame the setup by Olivia. The servant greeted her with her middle name, Argona, a middle name only used to acknowledge the imperial family and palace. When Crown Prince Elfred I was Crown Prince, his fiancée, Queen Argona, convinced her mother before marriage. But a week before the marriage, the fall of the Argona family occurred, and the title of Crown Princess was given to another noble family. The Decaran Empire gave the Queen of Argona a royal concubine, and that was when her mother Cecilia was born. Maybe the novel seemed weird, but the past was tremendous. It was all used to justify Olivia's bad deeds. Faithful to the author's intention, it was a plot that led Olivia to death. But she didn't want to compete with the Crown Prince to make her point. She was confused. Even if it was the Emperor or Crown Prince, she couldn't trust either of them. She was amazed to see the Empire. It was big. The servant told them that at this point, Olivia and Daniel could go inside. They followed the servant inside. The servant told them that the emperor was waiting for them. Olivia was determined to meet the emperor with fire in her eyes. The door opened, and the emperor was sitting there. They came and introduced themselves to the emperor. It was the first time Olivia had met the emperor. The emperor asked them to sit there. The servant poured tea for everyone. The emperor noticed that Olivia had every sense of manner even without a mother. He asked where she learned it all. She replied that Baroness Meridian was her nanny. She taught her everything. The emperor thought it must be Jean who suggested she apply for the swordsman department. She agreed, even though the Baroness never really met Olivia, but she knew the Baroness would understand it. The emperor had heard of her sickness and noticed she was fine now. He also noticed that she was at the perfect age for marriage. She apologized for her forwardness, saying her health only recovered with the sword by her side, and she wanted to choose the knight's path. She was trying hard to decline the crown princess offer. The emperor asked Daniel if he was the one who taught her sword fighting. Daniel replied that he was the one. The emperor found Daniel to be a spitting image of his father, a sword master at a young age just like Daniel. The emperor told Daniel that the royal palace needed men like him as guards. He offered Daniel a position in the royal guard, playing a trick by using Olivia's potential loneliness as a knight. Daniel accepted the offer as a guard for a shorter time. Olivia was angry sitting there. The emperor started laughing, asking why he would want to work for a short while. Although Daniel was grateful for the offer, he had pledged loyalty to the House of Versace only. The emperor knew that his master wouldn't allow him to work for anyone else, even for a short time. He advised Daniel to renounce his loyalty and claim new allegiance. He laughed and looked at Olivia, noting she was generous to him and even asked him to work rather than waste time. Olivia was getting pissed as he was looking at her when he said those words. The emperor might get suspicious if Daniel kept looking at her like this, but she was pleased that Daniel was making a move, so she had no issues. The emperor was laughing loudly at the waste of words. He understood that Olivia was Daniel's master. According to the emperor, manpower should not be wasted. Daniel would be working as a royal guard as long as the ladyship was in the capital. The emperor confirmed it with Olivia to ensure she had no issues with it. Olivia, with a forceful smile, said it was an honor that he considered the people of Hirsch. She was able to dodge the opportunity to avoid getting involved with the crown prince. The crown prince must be like him, she thought. After a quiet time, Olivia and Daniel were taking their leave, and the emperor was having a good time after meeting Olivia and acquiring a great knight. He asked if they would visit often. She just said that if the emperor called her, she would be there, even though she never wanted to meet him again in her life. The emperor understood that she didn't want to come again but took it lightly. She took her leave, not wanting to waste more of his time. Olivia declined the royal carriage and chose to go with the carriage Oscar sent for her. Daisy asked how it went. Olivia was pissed off after meeting the emperor. Daisy didn't understand why she was in a bad mood if everything went well. She started yelling that he got on her nerves. He kept bringing up the crown princess topic and even tried to recruit Daniel into his royal guard. She was so pissed. Daisy asked if she made a displeased, painful appearance in front of Olivia. Even though Daisy was right, Olivia said nothing went wrong. She turned the table towards Daniel, saying he had accepted working as a royal guard. Daisy screamed loudly. She was yelling at Daniel. She asked him what happened to his pledge. How could he accept that offer? What happened to his oath to be loyal to the Versace family? Olivia felt bad for Daniel but saved herself. If their father found out that Daniel accepted the offer, he would come directly from the border. Daisy wasn't ready to listen to him. She was nagging a lot and was very disappointed in Daniel. He explained that it was for a temporary basis as long as Lady Olivia was in the capital. Daisy asked what he would do if he couldn't keep his promises. He told Daisy that the emperor knows knights' loyalty is more important than imperial orders. Daniel asked Olivia if working there as a guard made her uncomfortable. She did not have any issues with him working there as a guard. She was showing displeasure so that he wouldn't request more from them. Daniel was relieved to know that, but it was all thanks to her that he got the job. She was expecting a present from his first pay as a guard. Daniel directly asked her what she wanted to have. Daisy reminded him that he shouldn't ask such questions to a girl. Daisy told him to choose a gift on his own. It would make her feel good. She was fine with whatever he got for her. It had been a long time since the three of them sat together. When Daniel was the escort of Lady Olivia last year, they had many moments like that. From that point, the story took a different turn, and she knew that. They arrived at the Versace manor. As a wedding present, Elfred I gifted that manor to Crown Princess Cecilia to show the Emperor's love towards Cecilia. It had large gardens and appeared to be an extension of the imperial palace. The Emperor thought he would spend time there with his wife, but she went directly to Hirsch with the Count after marriage. Fred, with his other maids, was welcoming Olivia. He was a royal attendant to the first crown princess. Olivia also introduced Daniel and Daisy to Fred so he could look after them as well. Fred's wife, Rose, was their maid. She had served as a maid for Princess Cecilia. The novel also talked about both caretakers. They were on Olivia's side till the very end. She was happy to meet them. Daisy hugged Rose. She was happy when Daisy was coming there. Olivia didn't understand how frank she got with them too. Daniel explained that during her academic time, she was suffering through hard times, and the two of them treated her as their own daughter. To Olivia, Rose had always acted like a strict teacher and caretaker, but when she met Rose, she was just like another 19-year-old girl. Olivia was hungry, her stomach was making noises. Rose had forgotten that they had a long journey. She asked them to come inside while she prepared dinner. Daniel asked her if everything was okay with Olivia. Everything was good, and for that time, she wanted to just smile there. It was the last day she could smile without any worry. After that, she would have to face many problems in the future. The reason why the Deccaran Empire stood strong for 100 years was due to the immense scale of Sumhal Academy. The reason why the second count made it compulsory to attend Sumhal Academy was to persecute the northern regions and strengthen the emperor's authority. From a broader perspective, Sumhal Academy started recruiting young and excellent students into the capital, providing them with high-level education so they could run state affairs. An emperor with a strong education system would guarantee a long lifespan. Even though everything was good, Olivia was still sad about something. She came out of the washroom after washing her face and saw Lola standing there. Olivia asked Lola if she slept well or not. Lola was surprised that Olivia still remembered her name. Olivia had a habit of remembering most of the maids' names. At the Versace castle, maids were appointed to Olivia, and Daisy personally appointed Lola for Olivia. Lola was thrilled that Olivia called her by her name. Olivia went into the care room, followed by Lola. At the Sumhal Academy female dorms, the magic department had white uniforms, but every other department at Sumhal Academy had blue uniforms. The uniforms were different depending on the department. Sleeves, buttons, and vests were different for each department. Those in the swordsman department wore gold like Olivia. The swordsman department had two uniforms, one for attending lectures and events, and the other for training. Nobles didn't get their uniforms from the school. Rather, they had to have them custom made from a boutique. Julian's work was impressive. Lola felt so good to see how well it looked on Lady Olivia. Lola told her about Violet's lady asking if she could decorate the room and what she should tell them about that. She would be sharing a room with Olivia. Her maid told Lola. In each department, the first and second place students were given separate rooms, but as she didn't attend the entrance exams, she was given a room to share with a roommate. She asked Olivia if there was any particular style she had in mind. She found the idea of decoration impressive. She advised her that they could do whatever they wanted and to bring the same chair and bed she used to have in Versace Castle. Lola wrote down everything she said. Olivia also told Lola to pick her own bed, closet, and vanity table. She could stay out until dinner. She was surprised that she was able to choose her things on her own. Olivia was just bribing her with things to make her work hard since she was the only maid there for her. She asked her not to use anything cheap as whatever she uses reflects her rank as well. Lola was so pleased with the lady and glad she came there with her. Olivia advised her to go shopping along with Oscar, even though he had some work to do. Lola agreed to that too. Olivia then went to Sumhal Academy, and Lola expressed her gratitude towards her leave. She had to go to the first swordsman department. There was a map for guidance. She came into Sumhal Academy but was confused. There was no one around. She wondered if everyone came there at sunrise and if they even had breakfast time. She saw two students of Sumhal Academy running. She noticed their uniforms were the same as hers. She also started running and thought, why are they running even though they have time? At the 5th Street of Demire, Lola came to Oscar's office and explained that Lady Olivia wanted him to go shopping with her, but if he was busy, she could go herself. He slammed his pen on the desk and got ready for shopping. After all, she wanted him to go. As Lola was still saying that if he was busy, she could go, Oscar was getting sad about that. Lola got scared, wondering what she said that made him sad. Oscar loves spending money, especially when it's someone else's money. It was a great opportunity for him to spend money and relieve stress. Lola agreed as well. She was happy about that too. They went shopping and bought things. Oscar asked if she needed something more. Oscar bought a closet. bed, kettle, and other essentials of Olivia's daily needs and made sure they got delivered to the Versace Manor to Daisy Meridian. Lola was scared that if he spent too much, he would get fired maybe. She was worried that if Lady Olivia found out, she would get mad at her. Oscar told Lola that Olivia likes people who spend money around, and Daisy and he make enough profit from that. She didn't understand why he was saying all of that, maybe because he makes a lot of money. Oscar wanted to spend more money and was looking for different shops. At Sumhill Academy, Arnold was about to be left to discipline the freshmen that year. He didn't want that to happen. Arnold didn't understand why everyone had to worry about discipline. Arnold's friends told him that Olivia was also among the freshmen the same year, the younger sister of his idol Kyle. He told Arnold that she was also in the swordsman department. Arnold was happy that he could watch the swordsmanship of Sir Kyle through his own eyes. The entire empire knew how much Kyle was devoted to his sister. He must have taught her something. While Arnold was still dreaming about Sir Kyle, he thought Kyle must have taught her everything himself. He may not leave Olivia in someone else's hands to be taught. Arnold was getting nervous for no reason. His friend took leave from there. Arnold was wondering how the daughter of Versace and sister of Sir Kyle would look. Meanwhile, Olivia was still running because she was late, just like the others. Everyone gathered in front of the swordsman building. A guy yelled that everyone needed to gather there half an hour before. He punished those who were 30 minutes late by telling them to run on the ground. Nobody has common sense, he said to everyone. While Olivia hid behind a tree, scared and watching everything and everyone, she thought it was freshman treatment. She didn't want to go through that headache. If someone came early, they were free to go, but if they came late, then they had to put their head in the ground. She heard someone saying hello to her from behind. A guy named Ray was sitting there on the top of the tree. Olivia introduced herself as well. She noticed his clothes, they were white. She noticed that he was from the magic department. Ray came down and asked Olivia if he was handsome or not. She suddenly started thinking, who was that creep? She got speechless suddenly. He again asked if he was so handsome that she would be ready to get married to him. For her, it depends on taste, as everyone has a taste in men. Ray asked about her interest in him as a future husband. With his beautiful blue eyes, purple hair, and clean skin, she did find him like a character that came out of a novel. But she remembered that she already had Daniel. She denied him directly, saying she already had her future husband. She couldn't go and meet other men other than Daniel. He mumbled something, but she didn't hear what he was saying. She heard someone say to keep doing laps around the training ground. She noticed that they were running now, and she couldn't stand around hiding herself any longer. She was hiding in the bushes. She asked Ray if he was good with magic. Ray was good with magic. She asked him if he could teleport her into the center of the running freshmen. He agreed and started doing his magic. With a blink of an eye, she opened her eyes, and she was on the ground with the other candidates running along with them. The magic was so cleverly done that nobody noticed her joining the race. They ran towards the end point, but the orange-haired guy ordered them to run again except for the first place. She was pissed that only the first place would get off easily. She wanted to thank Ray because he helped her get into the race. He wondered how Olivia forgot him. Olivia surprised him a lot. She was as beautiful as she always was. He wondered how she did not remember when he referred to himself as her future husband. He remembered the old talk between him and Olivia when she said, "When you meet someone who makes your heart beat so fast and makes it hard to breathe, that's the person you should marry." For Ray, it was Olivia. But Olivia did not feel the same way about him. The orange-headed guy shouted at them again for being tired. Many were tired and exhausted. It was such a hot day. She was stinking in sweat and starving as well. He told everyone if they wanted to get tired so easily like this, they should go back to where they came from. Or if they didn't like what he said, they should make him quiet with their skills. No one dared, so the orange-headed guy picked one girl from the crowd. She came forth, and he asked her to pick up the sword. Olivia remembered that girl was always in the last but never left the race. That girl was holding the sword awkwardly. She was trembling while holding the sword. The way she was standing, Olivia knew that she could collapse at any time. Many guys started to raise their hands to take her place instead. The orange-headed guy taunted everyone, saying every guy was trying to be her prince. He asked that girl whether she came to learn sword fighting or to make relationships with other guys. The pink-haired girl yelled at him, saying she came there to learn sword fighting. She got into a fighting position. They started attacking each other. She kept trying to defend herself from one attack after another, until the moment when he lifted her sword into the air. That sword dropped in front of Olivia rather than all other places. That girl lost the duel, but she thanked him. The orange-headed guy was disappointed by the freshman year as their skills were not good. He kept taunting the pink-haired girl, saying reckless guys always apply for the sword department even though they don't even know how to hold a sword. Again, the guy challenged someone to pick up the sword and face him in a duel. He pointed his sword tip at Olivia and asked her if she wanted to duel with him. Everyone started talking about her and her brother, and she belonged to Versace. She didn't want to be in the spotlight, but as long as she's away from the main character, it all goes well. She smiled and picked up the sword. She accepted his challenge. He asked Olivia her name. She replied that he was going to get lost. Did he still want to know her name? The girl behind the orange head yelled that in the swordsman department, they respect their upperclassmen. Olivia knew that when it comes to seniors, they always look for respect, but on behalf of juniors, they never respect them. It was bad manners to treat an opponent without sincerity during a duel. That's what she learned from her teacher. Olivia removed her coat and threw it away. She was ready to duel with him. He asked her to attack first, and she was prepared to not hold back anymore. She ran and landed her first attack on him with full power. The guy was pissed when he was not able to handle Olivia's strength. He swung his sword around, making more space for himself, and Olivia had to move back. Everyone started chanting, "Arnold, Arnold." They both were fighting each other while two guys from the top were watching them. They were the professors of Manhwa Academy in the swordsman department. They didn't expect Arnold to be that enthusiastic. It was normal, as he was fighting against Kyle's little sister. Tio was also a professor and Michael's colleague. It always seems like guys with temper issues have the same wavelength in swordsmanship, just like Arnold and Kyle. But Arnold was more humane compared to Kyle. Michael noticed the style she was using. She was still standing her ground against him. Michael noticed that the style might have been taught by Daniel. They both kept fighting, striking each other and defending themselves. Arnold noticed that she might be using Kyle's style. Arnold got more worried when he thought she might be using both their styles. He wasn't bad. He might be in the intermediary stage of swordsmanship. Arnold was fast, and his reactions were incredible. Olivia noticed that Arnold might have the potential to become a swordmaster. She started to feel dizzy. She was out of her limits and very hungry. Arnold wondered why she was just standing there and attacked her. She didn't have time to react as she was out of her limit, but her legs got tangled, and she was somehow saved from his attack. Arnold wondered what happened, and she got Void to attack Arnold. She got her chance and attacked his hand. Arnold lost the duel, and everyone started saying the freshman won. She appreciated the duel, raised her hand in support of him, and introduced herself to him. He took her hand and told her his name as well. He wanted to make things clear between Olivia and him. He provoked everyone just to fire them up. Olivia was well aware of all those traditions of Manhwa Academy. It was the role he was given. Even she was following the swordsman department traditions. Even though he said it was a given role, he fought harder. There were no misunderstandings between them as they talked about it there. The duel was dismissed at the moment. She wanted to say something to Arnold. She was hungry. She wanted to eat something before the next training session. At Sun Palace, the Emperor had gathered some information from his informer. He gathered a good amount of information. The informer was assigned to gather more information about Olivia and her academic sessions. The Emperor said she seemed to be upset. It was because he teased her terribly, and he wouldn't be able to request her presence without a genuine reason anymore. His associates were thinking about excuses they could make. Olivia's eyes resembled her mother's, Cecilia, but Cecilia was more hostile towards the Emperor, while Olivia was not. Well, that's true that Lady Olivia was not like Princess Cecilia. He advised the Emperor not to take out his anger on her. It was a good thing that she wasn't like the Count, but she did have his appearance. Milo ignored it when the Emperor got angry at him, saying how dare he compare them both. She does not look like him at all. The Emperor had one thought in his mind for a long time. He was thinking of making Olivia his daughter-in-law. The candidate for Crown Princess had already been selected, and their studies had begun as well. Well, he was the Emperor, he could overrule anything. He could make ways for her. Milo advised him to reconsider his decisions. Milo thought it was not a good idea to take action that would later make him regret it with the House of Versace. But according to the Emperor, if Olivia says she likes the Crown Prince, then what's the issue with the House of Versace? After all, the Crown Prince will take his place after him, and that won't matter in looks either. Milo was still confused. The Emperor warned Milo if someone was actually bad-mouthing him. Milo got scared and told him nobody was doing anything to him. He thought everyone in his family was bullheaded. If he kept pushing the prince onto Olivia, then Princess Cecilia would haunt him in his dreams. The Emperor had no worries about that, as she was already doing that. He looked at the sky through the windows. Olivia ate so much her stomach was full. She found the weather lovely. After a rest, it would become a beautiful place for her. Things had been going well for her. She'd just kick around her feet until she graduated. The female lead was in the education department and the main male lead was in politics, so there was no chance she would run into them. Also, she had applied 1 year later, so they were in different years now, and meeting them was nearly impossible for her. She was sure about passing her exams and ensuring her safety. The purple-haired girl came to Olivia. Olivia didn't recognize who she was. Her name was Jasmia Lona. She found Olivia amazing during the fight and wanted Olivia to be friends with her. She said that loudly. Jasmia was shy. She said it loudly, maybe because of her red face or perhaps because she was the first person in this place to say they liked Olivia. Lady Olivia was trembling and trying to hold her smile, but she couldn't help smiling and said yes to Jasmia's friendship. Jasmia was blessed with that, but Olivia reminded her to attend the class first. Jasmia asked her why she picked up the sword for the first time, but Olivia didn't know, so she asked Jasmia why she picked up the sword. Jasmia wanted to be strong on her own. Jasmia had chosen a difficult path. She seemed brave to Olivia. She was running away at first. She thought life under someone's protection would be much better. Jasmia was thinking of an arranged marriage. Jasmia had chosen the swordsman department to seek refuge here so she could avoid marriage. Even Lady Olivia had chosen the swordsman department to avoid her fate of being killed by someone. Olivia truly understood her pain and suffering. Olivia told her if she cries, she's going to leave her there, so she needed to keep up with Olivia. Jasmia was smiling again, and the weather in Demire was nice. In the swordsman department's second-year classroom, Arnold was thinking about Olivia. She was incredibly strong, and he saw Sir Kyle's style, but she also used Daniel's style while fighting with her. A friend of Arnold came and asked him if she was good. One of his other friends told him that it's just a duel. He wins some, he loses some. Not to take it too hard on himself. Meanwhile, Arnold was still in his thoughts about how she learned Daniel's style. His friends kept trying to encourage him. One of his friends, to encourage him, said too much about Olivia, and Arnold got into a rage. He stood up, grabbed his collar, and slammed him into the pillar there. Arnold was angry because of how dare he say those words against Olivia. She fought well on the ground against him. His friend got scared and apologized to Arnold. Arnold knew Kyle's sister was on a completely different level. She was much stronger. Arnold understood that Daniel must have taught her swordsmanship so she could identify her weakness. In the first-year classroom, she was sitting there getting bored and thinking maybe people were talking about her. The homeroom teacher arrived. His name was Samuel Randrago. He was their homeroom teacher, and he would be overseeing their morning sessions as well. He told them to forget about notions and only need to keep thoughts in their mind about how to use a sword. If they fall behind in any of their subjects, they need to learn history, politics, military science, and international relations. Military and history offer a chance to learn about recognizing corruption in the military and the gains and losses involved in war. Everyone kept writing. They had to learn the basics of mathematics as well. People needed to learn everything. If they fail, those students will be sent away from the training ground. That was no different than a military ground to her. She couldn't just graduate by swinging her sword. Their swordsmanship skills weren't everything. A military that cannot think and make decisions on their own will eventually become a tool. The military isn't just a person. Rather than becoming knights, they should become part of the military that saves people. Olivia kept listening to it. She was fascinated by his confidence in speaking. He told them to get familiar with the exam schedule and professors' names. They'd be divided into different levels according to their swordsmanship skills the next day. A guy asked if there was any place they could train themselves in private for evening training. They could use the main training ground, and there was another ground for training. After they sign up, they'd be allotted time and they could use that. She asked if anyone could use the ground as long as they sign up, but only 10 students from the advanced class would pick first. He told them to perform well in the assignment match tomorrow. She needed to perform better tomorrow. If classes were assigned according to their skills, she wouldn't be with Jasmia in the same class. People were talking about Olivia and how she defeated Arnold from the second-year class. As they kept walking, a guy asked them if they belonged to the swordsman department. He asked a way to meet Olivia. Class was over, and she wondered what else she had to face. 2 students came and told Olivia a blonde man was outside waiting for her. She wondered who that blonde man could be. She forgot about him when the letters stopped coming to her. But when she met him again, everything stirred up for her. She was pissed. It was Giorgio. It had been a while since they last met. He asked her if she missed him, but why would she miss him by any chance? But for Giorgio, there wasn't a day he hadn't missed her. She was even more pissed. She thought he wanted to fight with her and was trying new ways. She heard girls talking about Giorgio behind her. She didn't notice how that crowd appeared out of nowhere. She wanted to leave that crowd as soon as possible. She asked Sir Giorgio if those people were staring at her or at him. Giorgio asked what stares she was talking about. Already pissed, she didn't say anything. Giorgio understood that people were making her uncomfortable. She never felt comfortable around him. He thought maybe it was because she was shy. She wanted to take his eyes out of his head. She was thinking of taking him somewhere with no people and beating the crap out of him. She didn't want to get involved with the second male lead anymore. She paused and thought if she kept meeting Giorgio, she'd end up meeting the crown prince. She asked if Giorgio had any plans today. If not, then they could eat together. Giorgio was flattered by this behavior of Olivia. He thought she was asking him for a date. The cafeteria was full of people. He told Lady Olivia to sit where she wanted, and he'd bring her plate to eat. He brought a variety of foods for Olivia because he didn't know what she would like. She was surely going to have an indigestion problem before she even started eating. As she was eating, she knew she had to sneak out of there before he noticed. Surely he would be looking for her in the swordsman department. Giorgio had enough with his food. He didn't eat very much as his stomach wasn't good at that time. He said he usually ate more than that. She thought maybe Giorgio liked to maintain his weight. She remembered the time when he said he was learning sword fighting. His hands were pale and lovely, she found. She kept staring at him. He mentioned that his master had quit teaching him sword fighting as he thought Giorgio had no potential in it. She was surprised that he did learn about sword fighting. He didn't actually learn anything in sword fighting but kept copying styles. He really sucked at learning, she thought. He must have been really bad if an egomaniac like him was acting all modest, she thought. But if he was good at sword fighting, rather than just having a good face and brains, he could have been the main lead, Olivia thought. She felt bad for him, as the role of the second male lead wasn't easy. He didn't need to have everything. He was talented in other things. He didn't understand what she meant by that. In Olivia's opinion, he had money, he could just hire anyone who could use a sword. Maybe he made the right decision in giving up on sword fighting. Giorgio was stunned by her thoughts. He asked again what she really meant about him being smart and talented, coming from a good family, and having money. He felt shy there. He was happy to hear her opinion regarding him. She was shocked and didn't understand what he was thinking, so she didn't bother him with thoughts. He found that Olivia was different from other women he had met. She was cold-hearted, frank, and honest about everything. She was strong as well. Giorgio found her a good person. She got pissed suddenly after hearing everything he said. She thought he was calling her ridiculously strong, mouthy, and a girl with a bad attitude. She mentioned that their relationship in the past was just pointless, needless words of exchange between them. Giorgio wondered which relationship she was talking about. She got angry and said he knew which relationship she was talking about. She had enough and never wanted to see him again. Giorgio didn't understand why she suddenly got mad at him. It wasn't sudden. A series of letters from him caused trouble for her. She didn't want to accept his apology and didn't want to increase her urge to hit him, so she asked him not to meet her again. Before she left, she reminded him one more thing. He should never intrude on her ever again. She didn't like it. Giorgio didn't understand what happened. She was leaving from there. Before she left, he grabbed her hand from behind, saying there was a misunderstanding between them. She got even angrier when he held her hand. He didn't want to make her angry but just wanted to talk. She didn't want to talk to him. He was making her repeat her words, so she made it clear to him that they should not meet ever again. She said goodbye and left. She had done her part there. All she had to do was turn her head away and walk straight. But it was a foolish idea, she thought. People were looking at Giorgio. She bumped into a girl, and a drink was poured on her uniform. The girl apologized to Olivia and asked her if she was all right. Olivia recognized the girl. She was trembling. She was Adrian, the female lead of that novel. In the original story, he spills grape juice on Olivia's training uniform, staining the white shirt. But in the original story, it happens in the last year. Olivia was in shock at how it was all happening to her now. Adrian was concerned about Olivia's shirt and the stain on her training suit. Adrian wanted to take her training uniform for dry cleaning, but Olivia didn't allow her to do that. Adrian would feel bad about letting it go like this for Ladyship Olivia. Even though Adrian insisted, Olivia didn't want her to do it and asked her to step out of her way. Everyone started mumbling about Lady Bonaparte and Lady Olivia, and Olivia was being overreactive to a small spill on her shirt. Olivia didn't even understand what she did. Sir Giorgio came and put his hands over Olivia's shoulder. He asked if she was all right. Olivia wondered how Sir Giorgio got there. In the actual novel, Olivia flips over the tray of food in Adrian's hands, making a mess, and Adrian gets terrified. Sir Giorgio helps the female lead and gets her up, asking if she was hurt or not. But now, the arm Giorgio was holding was Olivia's. She was fine and a little wet, and she didn't understand what was going on. She was surprised but felt like the story was a total mess. Adrian approached Sir Giorgio and realized they knew each other, which was a relief for her. Sir Giorgio reminded Lady Adrian that Olivia had asked her to leave, so why did she keep insisting on staying? Adrian was scared and didn't understand what to do, as Olivia was not accepting her apologies and became angrier. It's not everyone's duty to accept her apology and stop everything because she felt bad. He misunderstood her intentions as she only wanted to apologize, but he kept blaming her for suddenly spilling juice on Olivia's training uniform. More importantly, Olivia didn't get angry, she just asked her to move out of her way. He clearly asked Lady Adrian if she didn't intentionally spill that juice on Olivia, she should get out of her way. Lady Adrian got more scared and apologized. He asked Olivia to keep moving. Even though he was right, she made a big deal out of nothing. Olivia wondered if she did it on purpose. At the Asna clinic, Hilo was making tea for Olivia. He was surprised that for the first time, Giorgio had brought his friends there. But they were not friends. Hilo wondered if they were lovers. Giorgio reminded him that he went too far with his saying. Olivia wondered why she was even there. Hilo left them alone so they could talk, and he also told her that she could drop by anytime. She was glad to Hilo for the herbal tea he made. Giorgio thought they were alone, but Olivia knew they were not alone there. One was upstairs, one in the next room, and two were lurking behind her. In total, 6 people were there. She wondered if he was familiar with Adrian. She wanted to figure out if they were still following the story as in the novel. Before he wanted to answer anything, he wanted to know something from Olivia. He told her that he liked Olivia as a man likes a woman. She thought he was picking a fight with her because she hurt his pride. Maybe that was the reason he helped her. She wondered why he started saying all this suddenly. Well, Giorgio doesn't need a reason to confess anything. To think of her first love confession, she didn't expect it to be from the second main lead. And she wanted to avoid death, so she wasn't interested at all. Olivia declined it and asked again how he knew Adrian. Giorgio wondered how cold she was and asked if she liked someone. She did mention she didn't like anyone but was passionately and sincerely in love with someone. Giorgio was in shock and jealous. He asked her who he was. It wasn't important to Olivia, and she asked him again if he was going to answer her or not. Giorgio was Adrian's assistant. They only knew each other by name. He remembered that around last year in the cafeteria, the same incident happened with Lady Adrian and the humanities students. It was also a spill of juice. She asked if he helped her. He certainly did help her, and that was it. She wondered why Giorgio was the person who had to fall in love with her. According to the original story, Giorgio falls in love with Adrian first, but he wasn't in love with her, so it had yet to happen. Olivia wondered if that never happened with them. He did say he liked her, but he never said the same to Adrian. Olivia understood everything. She wondered if they both didn't know each other that well, which meant she hadn't met the Crown Prince yet. Adrian knew Renato by name and face, but Renato never had an interest in girls. She wondered if Renato had a type. Giorgio said he liked girls with some unique ability. In the original story, the Crown Prince was head over heels for her, but now he wasn't even interested in Adrian. He told her his type in women, but she was angry and held herself back only once. She thanked him for his help but never wanted to see him again. It was evening. She came out of there and wondered what the point of hiding was when things were clear. She noticed that the top room was for Renato, but she didn't understand why people were positioned outside. He came inside and got to know she had refused him. He asked about Lady Adrian. Lady Adrian's mind control didn't work on Lady Olivia. She had no reaction. And Adrian was standing there. Renato knew Olivia was the daughter of the formidable northern side. If someone liked her, it might be from the same land as her side. It was clear to Giorgio that Lady Olivia was not on the same side as Lady Adrian, so Lady Adrian was most likely working for the Empress. Lady Adrian took out a note, and it had Lady Olivia's name written on it. Lady Adrian wondered why Olivia doesn't obey her. She burnt the paper and called Olivia stupid for not understanding what she was saying. Meanwhile, in the room, Renato and Giorgio were still talking about Lady Adrian being after the Crown Princess. Lady Olivia was not involved in that and had no interest in them as well. Rather, Giorgio told him she was more interested in him and Adrian not knowing each other. Renato wondered why his relationship with Adrian interested Lady Olivia. He remembered his father's words about calling off the candidates for the Crown Princess and choosing Lady Olivia instead. Renato was also ready for Lady Olivia over the other candidates, but Giorgio wondered whom she loved. Renato got scared and asked why he was asking him. Giorgio was just curious to know who it could be. Giorgio knew it was not him, and it would be troublesome if it was him since they knew each other very well. About Lady Olivia, she might be protecting her man and no one can win against her, so just give up. Giorgio let her abuse his kindness. When she gets angry, Giorgio can gift her anything she wants. Lady Adrian was wondering why Giorgio was not falling for her. She thought she had him there, but he slipped from her fingers and backstabbed her. It was annoying that she was not able to meet the crown prince. A man from behind came in, and she asked how it went. He told her they went to the clinic. She wasn't hurt, he told her. He was not able to hear what they were talking about because people were standing there for the crown prince. Giorgio never took her there and wondered if Olivia had met the crown prince already. Adrian wondered how skilled she was. She was able to defeat Arnold, who was intermediate, so she was somewhat near to master skilled. Olivia had already acquired master skills. That was the reason she didn't fall for her trap. The man sat in front of her and asked her not to put herself in danger and to stay away from that girl. He wanted to go back, but Adrian had no choice. They both had come a long way for this. The guy didn't like the idea of Adrian seducing other guys, but it was all business. She had already told him that she loves him, and during the time when he was away, there was no one to protect her. There wasn't any danger for her there, and the guy was also looking after her. She asked him to leave her room. The man got out of the window and left. She closed the windows and started planning her next move. The next day at the training ground, there were many people present. Every department was invited to watch the swordsman class assignment, and everyone showed up. She knew that Giorgio must be in the crowd as well. She started to feel lightheaded. Jasmia asked if she was feeling okay. She was fine but worried about Giorgio showing up. Rules were announced by 3 people, and if they got out of the ring or lost their sword, they would lose. They arranged the matches in such a way that it was like a tournament. 10 students from each year would be divided into 4 groups, and 2 students would compete at a time. She figured out that she had to fight 6 people. Olivia wanted to finish quickly and eat something. Matches started to begin, and everything went as she expected. Olivia's friend got out of the match first, while Olivia stood her ground. She kept on winning matches. Olivia's friend really wanted to be with her in the same class, so Olivia agreed to teach her. She was glad that Olivia was ready to help. She noticed that the guy who was fighting in the ground was the one who came earlier to tell her that Giorgio was looking for her. He was moving fast and agile. He didn't seem to be a commoner, rather an ex-soldier. With that kind of movement, he must have been a highly skilled soldier. She wondered what he was doing there. He noticed that Olivia was looking at him, so he smiled at her. Olivia was surprised. She wondered why he was looking at her like he wanted her to praise him. It was Lady Olivia's turn to fight. She was against Sir Alan. People were whispering that Lady Olivia might win against him, even though Alan had scored first place in the entrance exam. There could be a possibility that Olivia might take over him. They both got into position and started fighting. From the top, Renato and Giorgio were watching their fight. Olivia seemed strong to Giorgio. Giorgio felt jealous of the guy who was fighting against Olivia, and wanted to pick up the sword again. Renato was still confused about something. Ever since he saw her in the parade after the subjugation army returned, he was not able to forget about her. Why did she cry that day? He didn't understand. The one who cried in her father's arms, was it really her? That side of her he had never seen before. As she was fighting, the cries were nowhere to be seen now. He wondered if that's how she pushes her limits and breaks her fronts. He had a burning desire to challenge her to a duel. Why did she even refuse the offer for crown princess? Renato had finally desired someone for the first time. Lady Olivia won that match. Adrian came there to apologize to Giorgio for her behavior the other day. She asked if Olivia was all right. Olivia was doing great and nothing needed to be concerned about, Giorgio said. Adrian noticed ladyship, and she got to know that she was in the swordsmanship department. She was wearing the same uniform as yesterday. Adrian saw she had won the match and wondered that she must be incredibly strong. She asked Sir Giorgio to introduce her to his companion. She was always like this. Adrian couldn't address Renato directly, so she asked Giorgio to help her. Giorgio wasn't feeling good about that and was thinking of moving somewhere else. By that time, Renato said he was going somewhere else. He kept walking even when Giorgio asked him to stop. By then, even Giorgio excused himself from Lady Adrian and followed Renato. Renato got out of there quickly. Giorgio was glad that he got out of that situation because of him. Renato had seen his facial expression and wasn't feeling good. It was all because of how she was with Lady Olivia, but Giorgio wasn't feeling good standing beside Adrian. Renato wanted him to bear it for now as they had yet to uncover the truth about Adrian. Meanwhile, Olivia placed first in the classroom assignment. Everyone there was clapping for her. Ray came to congratulate Olivia. She was happy to see Ray there. Ray was watching the match and noticed that she was as strong as always. She seemed confused about what he meant by that. He used his magic powers and blew chilled winds there. It felt so nice to Olivia that she forgot what he meant by that. She wanted to be his good friend. She felt much better after that. She wondered why he wasn't in his class as everyone went to their classes. It was about to start at 11. Olivia didn't have any class, so she was hoping to get washed, eat, and sleep. Ray insisted on escorting her. She felt so good that a pretty guy like him offered to escort her. She wanted Daniel to learn from him. She didn't want him to be late for class. As for him, he could walk to the dorms and then teleport himself to the classroom. Ray was such a gentleman that he could get any young woman. She wondered if Kyle had any of his qualities. He would have been married by now. The weather was nice and she felt great. She also won first place, and a handsome young man was walking with her. She felt good about herself. She wanted Daniel to be there with her. 5th Street Demire. The Air House was a pub where youngsters used to gather. Everyone from the swordsman department was present there to drink something. She was there to hang out with her colleagues. Alan, Chris, and Ron were already there. They waved at Olivia. She had matches with those three. They really found fun in the assignment. Ron had no idea how she would be able to block his attack. They were chit-chatting, and Jasmia noticed that Alan was so serious. He didn't understand what she meant. Jasmia wanted everyone to ignore Alan as he was shy and it was his idea to gather there. But Alan never said it was his idea. Alan got so red-faced when Jasmia was there, and Jasmia was clingy to him as well. She found them cute. She wondered if they were so close to each other, but Jasmia and Alan were just childhood friends. Jasmia didn't want to be close to Alan but rather to Olivia. The same goes for Alan as well. She understood that it was blurring the line between friendship and love. She could directly sense a trace of romance between them. She found that the beer drink was so to her taste. They kept drinking and got drunk a lot. Alan advised Olivia not to drink much. He called her Lady Olivia, to which Olivia replied to call her only Olivia. They were classmates. He thought Olivia hated him because of his brother getting on her nerves. She was drunk and didn't remember his brother. He wondered if she did not know his name. She knew it was Alan, but little did she know that it was Alan d'Este, the brother of Sir Giorgio d'Este. Her hangover got over, and she wondered if he was the brother of Sir Giorgio. He was, and he was told they look alike. She looked at him very carefully, and in every different way, they were very similar to each other. Alan took away the bottle as she was drunk a lot. He insisted that he would drop her home, but she didn't want to. He wondered why she didn't want to go. She let him know that someone was picking her up. He again tried to take the bottle from her as she kept drinking, but she wanted to be drunk. Alan asked her why she wanted to be drunk. She found that he was insisting a lot. He was handsome, belonged to a good family, and was treating her with respect. His swordsmanship was admirable. She was standing close to Alan and said it was such a shame. Alan was confused about what she said. Someone asked what was a shame. She looked there and saw it was Daniel standing there. He asked what was shame about. Olivia was surprised to see him and hugged him directly. Before she started drinking a lot, she sent a note through the beer pub with a generous tip to deliver a note to Daniel, who was at the mansion. She had drunk a lot, and Daniel came there to get her quickly. He was ready to take her to their place. She was happy to hear his voice after a long time. As she was telling him about the assignment, Ron, Alan, and Chris were totally shocked. Daniel had already taken care of the bill, and since Olivia was drunk, he was taking her home. They came out of the beer pub shop. Daniel was holding her in his hands. Alan came out and asked him if he was perhaps Sir Daniel Meridian. It was him, and he wanted Alan to understand not to waste his girl's time again. Daniel understood he was Giorgio's brother. Alan wondered what the relationship between Olivia and Daniel was. Daniel got angry as Alan addressed her as Olivia rather than Lady Olivia. Since they were colleagues, it was fine to address her without using the prefix lady. Daniel got angry and wanted his junior not to call her that again. As he was also in the academy, he should be aware of it. Alan hated when someone acted like how Daniel was acting. Alan again asked Daniel about their relationship. He told him that whenever she got drunk, he picked her up. They lived together and they were responsible for each other. Alan understood what Daniel was saying to him. Alan thought he did not have to worry about Daniel Meridian because he loved Olivia. As they were in the carriage, he wondered why she drank so much. She wanted to have the liquid courage inside her, Olivia mumbled. Daniel didn't hear her properly. She liked him so much, and she was not able to tell him when she was sober. She said she liked Daniel a lot. She wondered why he didn't like her back. He was about to admit it but thought he should give her an answer on Friday when he'd be there to pick her up. They arrived at the mansion. He raised his hands in support for Olivia, but rather than taking his hands, she kissed him on his forehead. Daniel was surprised, and the carriage runner saw everything. Daniel felt so embarrassed there. Daniel wondered if it would be so unfair if she forgot again what happened. The carriage runner was just looking at an embarrassed Daniel. Olivia had issues with blacking out after drinking. She was no different than Daisy in terms of blacking out. They both missed important things in memory. Olivia had no memory of their incident on the night of the dance. She was leaving for Demire again tomorrow. As they were dancing, Daniel understood that he couldn't watch her falling in love with someone else. But there was a fear inside Daniel's heart. His father wouldn't accept him as a knight after confessing his love for Olivia. He couldn't stand by her when he felt away. As he was leaving, Olivia held his shirt. She didn't want him to go away. She was worried that he would marry some other girl. But Daniel would not marry some other girl. Daniel had already confessed that he wouldn't wait until she graduated. He was done with waiting, so he was going with her. She was glad to hear that he was coming with her. Since she had decided to court him, he wanted her to take responsibility for her actions as well. She agreed that she would take her responsibilities. The next morning, she woke up in her Sumhal Academy room. She was having a headache. She came out of her room, and a girl was sitting there. She was Violet Castell. She was Olivia's roommate in Sumhal Academy. Olivia wondered if she was the one who designed the drawing room. Violet thought Olivia didn't like it. Olivia loved it. Violet got to know that Olivia liked her meals in her room, so she adjusted the drawing rooms accordingly. Violet was interested in eating together with her, as she was also used to eating in her bedroom. Olivia agreed, and since she was hungry, she asked her. They both got ready quickly for eating. Olivia enjoyed the breakfast with Violet. She was not uncomfortable around Olivia and treated her warmly. Olivia asked which department she was in. Violet was in the magic department. Ray also belonged to the magic department, and she asked her if Violet knew about Ray. Violet suddenly flinched, and she wondered if Olivia meant Reynold. Violet got even angrier when Olivia described his purple hair and blue eyes. She wondered if he told her to call him Ray. Violet was getting angrier. Olivia got scared as Violet was getting angry. She didn't understand what she had said wrong. She felt like she had screwed up. She cleared the misunderstanding between her and Violet. Olivia already had someone whom she liked, and Ray was just her good friend. Violet was surprised. She thought Ray and Olivia were promised to get married. Why would Olivia marry Violet's boyfriend, she thought. Olivia thought that in the West, maybe people use nicknames only for couples. They had only met twice, and Olivia could not even call him her friend. They had only exchanged their names. Violet suddenly asked her what kind of man she liked. It was an interesting question. They weren't really lovers at the moment, but Olivia had confessed her feelings and was waiting for a reply. Violet was surprised that Olivia was able to confess it. It's a common thing in the North, even though it's not. Violet wanted Olivia to tell her more about her lover. Olivia started describing Daniel's hair, dark eyes, great physique, thick eyebrows, and sculpted nose. When she started talking about his lips, she got so shy about them. Violet wondered how come her face got so red suddenly and with an unusual expression. She got shy thinking about Daniel and her. They both had a great time together. Violet enjoyed Olivia's company as well. Violet came out and took a deep breath, standing there. Violet suddenly got shy and covered her entire face with her hands. She was wondering that Lady Olivia had called her by her name and had even given her permission to call her Olivia rather than using the prefix lady. She understood that it was her, the one Ray always used to watch from behind the trees when she used to ride a horse. The white-headed girl. She had given up a room just to get transferred with Olivia. Violet had a moment that after the match, she would talk to Olivia, but Ray came there before her and didn't let her anywhere near Olivia. She was able to accomplish breakfast with her. She was able to use the full advantage of being her roommate. Lola wondered why she drank so much yesterday. Olivia was drunk because she had made a few new friends. Lola didn't understand how Sir Daniel went there to pick up Olivia. Well, it was Olivia who sent him a message to pick her up. Lola asked if she remembered anything that happened last night. She walked to her room on her own, and she remembered the kiss she gave to Daniel. How could she forget it? Olivia asked Lola what day it was. Wednesday, Lola replied. Olivia was happy that Daniel would be there to pick her up on Friday. They were planning to spend time on the weekend at the Versace mansion. She was definitely ready to spend time with Daniel. Lola noticed that light was coming out of the crystal ball. Before she went to Demire, her father gave her the voice recording crystal ball. It was similar to a cell phone. The ball was directly connected to Versace Castle. The call got connected. It was her father. He was worried about whether everything was going great for her. Kyle came there as well. Her father and Kyle started fighting to talk with Olivia. She wondered if they had this fight before calling her. Kyle asked if Olivia and Daniel met the Emperor. She did meet the Emperor, and Daniel decided to work as a royal guard temporarily. They told her that the crystal ball also connects with Daisy and Daniel as well. She was surprised. Daniel had been their family's guard for a long time, and he had overseen the operation in Demire up until now. and that was the reason so many nobles were careful around him. When they entered the palace, no one at the emperor's palace stopped him, and no one in the north could point a finger at Olivia as Daniel Meridian was her guardian. Daniel was not going to Demire all the time, but after Olivia's birthday party, he got involved with going along with Olivia. Olivia wondered why it was only after the party. It was after he got her to bed. Maybe they had a good talk about something. She remembered it was Daniel who brought her to her bed. All the preparations were made, but just before leaving, Daniel was ready to go with Olivia, and that was the reason her father couldn't tell her. She felt guilty for scolding him about getting a job at the emperor's. She got lost in her thoughts until her father called for her again. She was a bit tired and told them not to overlook the paperwork and also mentioned not to be on the border for a long time. Her father and brother both started making excuses when she started talking about the paperwork. She understood that son and father were both alike. They were having fun running away from work. She was relieved as she went from Versace Castle, but now her part was still worrying. Maybe because she was away from home. Knowing how Olivia was used and treated in the original story and how she was cast out made her scared, but she was okay with Daniel and her. She expressed her love to her father and brother. She didn't want to let Daniel go away. Kyle and his father were both shocked when she said she loved them. Kyle asked his father if he heard her. They started arguing over whom she said that to, and the butler had to stop their argument. At 5th Street Demire, they decided to open a Laban branch on the first floor of the building. 5th Street was the most expensive place, which meant high rent as well, but Olivia's investments paid well. Laban was being handled by Daisy. She was there and asked Oscar if he had a girlfriend. Oscar got pissed. Oscar thought she was trying to tease him because he didn't have a girlfriend. Daisy asked Oscar to go out with her. Oscar was shocked to hear this. Kyle slammed his hand on the table. He had been talking about this with his father for a long time and meant it was time for it. His father seemed uninterested and told him not to think about it. Sam came and told them that the meeting preparations had been done. His father got up and told Kyle that if he had nothing to do, he should be doing some work at the castle. Kyle just wanted his father to hear him at least once. Kyle had a dream last night, and ever since that dream, he had a hunch. Kyle got on his knees before his father. His father didn't understand what the hunch was. Kyle had a dream of getting married. He had a hunch about that ever since long ago. His father advised him to throw away the hunch. But this time, Kyle was determined that he should go to Demire. Oscar was pale-faced. He was hesitating with his words when Daisy told him to get married. Oscar was all sweaty, and he seemed cheeky for the past few days. But Daisy was serious about them getting married. Oscar was surprised and asked her what was wrong with her. He had a taste in women as well. Daisy wondered what was wrong with her. Oscar tried to sneak out of there, saying he had an important meeting. Daisy got angry and made him sit there while he was crying out his tears. It was a joke Daisy did. Oscar was relieved that it was a joke, but she wouldn't have been able to handle it if Oscar had taken that offer of getting married to her. She still had a plan in her mind and thought maybe she should use it. He wondered what her plan was. It was to make him jealous. Oscar had a bad feeling about that plan. The plan was simple. They'll get word that Daisy is dating another man, and if he loves her, he would come back to her in tears. She read this in a storybook. Oscar wondered if she was asking him to be that man for her. It was him. She wanted him to act as that man. Oscar was scared of Kyle as he was a sword master. If he heard Oscar was dating Daisy, he would definitely not spare him. She had no choice. She knew he had feelings for her, but he was not giving her any reactions. Oscar had noticed Kyle's feelings for Daisy, and that's why she wanted him to help Daisy. Oscar asked if he did not give a reaction, would she give up on him? She was ready to give up on him if he did not react. Oscar asked if that was the case, would she care to marry him? She didn't agree to that thought but wanted to decide Lady Olivia and Daniel first. She gave him the money for the engagement rings and told him to buy a big fat diamond. He could buy anything he wanted. She gave him blank checks. Oscar was feeling sparkled. He went to buy the ring. In Samhel Academy, even after being assigned to their classes, they had to gather at the training grounds in the early morning for strength training. They were running in loops one after another. They had been running in loops for an hour and a half. They were totally covered in dust and sweat. After the rest of 30 minutes, newbies were to stand on the ground, and intermediates and advances were to stand on the other ground. They were gathered there to learn the basics of defense and military operations used in the army. This knowledge was important when it came to handling large-scale armies or crowds. 10 students were assigned first to learn the basics from the advanced level. For the entire class, they pushed themselves, swinging their swords and defending through shields. They kept going on. Rest was given for 30 minutes. She was tired and sitting under the tree. It was definitely a military training academy, she thought. Alan came and asked if she went home safely last night. Well, nothing had happened to her, so she did go safely. As if he wished something had happened. She didn't ask for his consolation, she said. Neither was she grateful to him, at least. Alan wondered if she liked Daniel a lot. She got shy, she definitely liked him a lot. Alan thought maybe because he was good looking. That's the reason she liked him, but rather she liked everything about Daniel. Picking her up, living together, and being responsible for each other. She didn't understand what Alan was talking about. He risked himself to Daniel just to know what his relationship with Olivia was. And that's what Daniel answered him. Sir Daniel was the family's representative, so it was natural that they were living together in the same house. He was her personal escort, so he was responsible for picking her up. But she didn't understand why they were responsible for each other. Alan wondered how come she didn't take the hint. She asked Alan if he knew. If a person says those words, it clearly means the woman belongs to him, he said. She wondered if he saw her as a woman. She was flattered to know Daniel's thoughts about her. She was wondering if he liked her. The Emperor and Milo were talking about Olivia getting first place in the swordsman department. He asked if Milo had something to say. But she was really blood to Versace. The Emperor got angry because he thought it was all because of Cecilia and her skills with a sword. Milo also told him that Olivia was actually using the Meridian style while fighting. He asked his informer if Reynardo and Olivia met. Reynardo did watch her while fighting, but it didn't seem like they knew each other. But he was accompanied by Lady Bonaparte. That was the only news he had from the Bonaparte family. Lady Bonaparte, the Emperor remembered a baron. He called Lady Bonaparte a bastard child. And a baron who owns a meager plot of land. She had blonde hair and used Giorgio to get close with the crown prince. She was involved in multiple incidents on campus but never got along with female students. The Emperor wondered what kind of taste he had in women. He wondered if she had any connection with the Empress. All they knew was that they both had origins in the West. He was about to get more information for the Emperor. The Emperor asked Milo's thoughts on Baron Bonaparte. He knew that Baron Bonaparte had come several times to see her in the past. He would check and tell the Emperor as well. He ordered Jerome to mobilize his crews and find out everything about them, from love life to financial statements. Milo wondered why the Emperor asked Jerome to mobilize the crew. It was because Olivia and Reynold were both present in Demire. Milo asked why the Emperor wasn't worried about the Crown Prince. The Emperor knew that the Crown Prince already had all the information, so he had trust in his son. Reynold was too strong, and he's at the Tower of Magic at the moment. He noticed the Emperor that Prince Reynold was showing up in the academy frequently. The Emperor was in shock, and he dropped his teacup. He got worried all of a sudden. He asked how Reynold was at the academy. Let's see that in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.